Good evening and welcome to Sunday's Open Minds live chat show. I'm Gloria. This is Open Minds. And this evening we have a returning guest, one of my favorite. I love him to bits, Brandon Thomas from Expanding Reality. But before we get to this humdinger of a show, I would like to, again, like last week, shout out when I checked the stats last week on the Open Minds page on Facebook, there's 5,000 odd, couple of hundred followers. You're following, you're supporting. So to all the open minders out there that are following, sharing, and supporting my show from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And this is what I do. It's not monetized. I have no sponsors. It's all mine. I don't make any money out of it, but what I do get are amazing guests like Brandon to share with you. So, Brandon, welcome to the show.
Yo, thank you so much for having me again. I know we were talking about this before, but this is you're in competition with the Union of the Unwanted panel show, which I consider that a little different. So as far as just shows, you're number one, my repeat guest. I've been the guest on your show the most. So thank you so much for having me again. I absolutely adore you.
Well, you can send me the check in the post later, okay?
Got it. It's on its way to you.
It's on its way. Right. So to kick off, me and Brandon are just going to have a chat. Yeah. I've given him permission to flip the show so he can interview me. I will interview him. So it makes it more organic and more natural, like two friends talking. Or, what do you think about this? And that's where we're going to go. And hopefully we're going to cover a massive area that you'll all be interested in. I titled tonight Anomalous Experiences, so I would cover the whole spectrum. Yeah. So as you're my mate, and by the way, Brandon, I love your hair. Very sexy.
Oh, stop it. Thank you. It's only like this because the wife loves it. When she met me, my hair was super long. I was, a recovering musician. And so it was just super long. And I just didn't have a real job and all that stuff. So I had a real job for the longest time. And man, I'm so glad I'm back. I feel great.
You're back. Well, I
thank the wife for the long hair. And I'll
I do thank the wife because, as you know, when I can, I stalk your show and play catch up with your guests. And at the last show I saw, you had your hair like that, and you mentioned about the wife is happy with it, and she's got good taste, because just be who you are.
That's it.
All right? That's it. Don't be professional. That's a condition. Just be Brandon. Right. You can kick it off. What do you want to talk about? Think.
Been doing a bunch of cool live panel show stuff lately, and that's probably where you saw my hair like this. Usually I wear the headphones whenever I'm on my own, expanding reality or whatever, and it's just different. So for the live stuff, it's much more, it's just a different environment. So I've been doing a couple of different types of live panel shows, and one of the big ones that I was very proud to roll out, which we just did, is the Co-Collective Creative. Now, the Co-Collective Creative is verbiage from Neil Donald Walsh and his Conversations with God book series. And so I've just been obsessed with this idea of bringing a bunch of incredible people together to just melt faces and expand realities. And that's what we're doing. Last night we had an incredible one about consciousness, and then this was our third one, and now they're up on YouTube. So actually I just uploaded all three on YouTube today, so you can go to expandingrealitypodcast.com, check them out. But one of the things that we talked about on there is consciousness and how crazy amazing and just unbelievable that topic is.
My favorite topic.
Well, what's your favorite thing about it?
It's the coming into the knowing of it, what it is. I mean, for me recently, my shows have changed as well. It must be something in the air, co-creators.
Evolution.
For me, it's like, and I've said, we go around saying, I am consciousness having a human experience. But we don't even go into consciousness. What is consciousness? And that's why I mentioned before we come on about the Seth material. Way back in the day when I was slightly young, about 200 years ago, my first door in was Seth, Jane Roberts. It was my door. And read it, everything, went down the road. And then as you do, then you go off, and you just go away somewhere else and do what you need to do. Recently, again, oh, well done. Well done. Oh, love it. Then recently, due to experiences, and I call them, like Seth does now, energy personalities. I've gone off the ET. I'm changing my language. I've been working on spell casting for a while, and then recently I had a major contact, and everything changed. I even experienced like outside with what you would call hybrids, look like humans, they're not. And it was witnessed not just by me, with somebody else, got photographs. And then something was telling me, go deeper into consciousness, go deeper. And then it says, Seth, I reread audiobook this time, nearly 20 hours within 2 days. I must have been all of Seth again, all of Seth. Brandon, humble pie. I never saw that last time. I never knew that about, but I'd done it way back in the day. So I'm really glad that we've started off on this topic, is to go to understanding what is consciousness, because if you understand what consciousness is, you understand the entity that's here.
Or at least the idea, because I don't know that understanding is something that perhaps our level of consciousness will allow us to experience, which is
take that back. Take that back. Take that back.
Here's why, is because let's think about this. Whenever you reach an understanding, let's say, or you have a knowing about something, is in the UFO phenomena, for instance, we know because of contactees, this is, just one of the examples, we know that they're coming from Zeta Reticuli because this one guy said that one time, and that was his experience, and that's what I'm basing my reality on. But as we look at it more, it changes. So if you were to ever plant your flag into something, think of all the things that you planted your flag in that you need to go back and pull them out, because you just evolve in this idea. Just like this, though, it seems to be ever pervasive. It just seems to expand into further and further and further concepts, and gets more and more mysterious. And so now there are possible, etheric beings, or they're time travelers coming back in, spaceships from the future and stuff like this. As that idea evolves, and so too your idea about yourself, this is all as above, so below stuff. So too your idea of consciousness, which one could boil that down to. Consciousness is just, we are just consciousness in expression. We're experiencing itself subjectively. So, but even that, our experience of this reality is always expanding. So it's kind of one of those things that if you know how fast you're going, you don't know where you are. But if you know where you are, you don't know how fast you're going. It's one of these paradoxes.
I'm with you. I mean, also, I come from the self-realization one, so I get that. But the Seth, one thing about the Seth material, and a good few shows in that will follow this will have Seth, is how can I put this? It's like the breadcrumbs. And we follow, we listen to it. I'm an experienced myself. We listen to other shows. But there comes a point where even through self-realization, you stop externalizing. That's the one. And when you stop externalizing and actually ask, you can call it your higher self if you choose, ask you, then it's a personal autonomous experience. And nothing on the outside, no matter what someone says, even if they had a photo show of something, it is irrelevant. It will not resonate, because theirs is a different conscious experience than yours. So the point at this point now is the external visual, see with the eyes within, hear with the voice within. That's what I'm talking about. I think that's why at the beginning, when I went for consciousness with Seth, and I've got to say, it was because of the energy personalities, what you call ET. And then I went on the road that we all go down, fantastic journey. But then there comes a point where you really do have to go in. I went around forever saying, yeah, I'm self-realized up to a couple of months ago. Believe it. Again, that truth, then something expands your reality. And you're pushed and you're pushed and you're pushed and you're pushed. And I'm not talking about external things going on. I'm talking about starting to co-create, as you said, with other beings, and they've got their slight part of the truth, their bit of the puzzle. And I found the more that they were coming in with new experiences, were blowing my mind, the more that pushed me in. And so I actually asked myself, I don't know what I asked myself at the time, but I was in a sort of like a place where I called upon source, me. I need to go now. I can't stay here no more. I can't stay being human no more. It was something like that. And then I had the external experience. I had the contact experience. And the next day, the whole of my life changed. Everything, just by asking the question about consciousness within, everything changed.
Yeah.
I was shifted somewhere else. All my passions were gone. I was just about to move. Everything packed. All my ideas, all I did was go in. And I had, I'm not doing that. No. And then vroom, I went down another road. Vroom. I had the experience with this being outside and had a witness that was not human. And then the next day I went into Seth. So what I'm talking about is, I understand that the way that you expressed it, but for me, I want to talk about when we go in and what the individual, because it's now for the co-creators, you just said on your show, you're bringing in the which is paramount now. This is critical now. And this is why you're just a beautiful person to speak to. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And brilliant the way you put it down. The thing with the co-collective creative, which is also a tongue twister, is that it's important that all the people that I'm talking to and that I'm a magnet for, that I'm attracting into my life at this time, have done the inner work.
Yes.
And so now it's time to come together in this amazing Voltron, is how I put it, or this Avengers. We're all kind of coming together with the work that we've done to contribute our different ideals in the form of skills as something relevant to a particular topic. So what's really interesting about what you said, is I also do a collaboration show with Dave Zed from Generation Z, and we just hung up with one. We actually moved ours early so I could come here and do this with you. Thank you so much. We're changing your name to Gloria Tanning, by the way. You look tan as fuck. So anyway.
I am tanned. I really am tanned.
You really are. One of the things that we talk about is this kind of like externalization. And whenever, it goes real deep, and I know I've probably touched on this with you, that the lizard turds or Boris Johnsons and, your Klaus Anal Schwabs and stuff like that, all these people out here that have this great idea for you and how to tell you how to live your life. These are mechanisms in my mind of the same construct or the same affect here. And so what I mean by this is that there are things out in your reality that yell for your attention, and they'll say things like, hey, you'll own nothing and love it. And how does that resonate with you? And what it does is, for me, it gives me the feeling of, no, I don't want that. So how do I look at that and decide that that's not what I want? But what this means, again, if you step out just one more level in consciousness and you look at this situation, not from your eyes, but from above it, and look at everything going on that involves you, then what you may come to the idea, like I have lately, is that it's just all, number one, a mechanism, but really it's an option. It's not a necessity or a requirement. It's an option. So yes, you could do that, but you don't have to. But what the option is there to present itself as is, because of the way this place is, again, in my opinion, it's a dualistic world. So you're presented with juxtaposition here, and your job or your role, maybe one of the things you have to do here is to work on your discernment. And so that's what this environment affords you. Now, when you look at it from the point of this, then what the co-collective creative does is we've all gone within, we've all said that the things out there that are yelling at us are distracting us from that mission of looking within. And so, said the term for a long time now, tend the garden that you've got. And this is just kind of a micro way of saying, like, don't listen to all that stuff out there, go within. And then when you go within, the world around you changes in the most miraculous way.
Yes. I mean, that was elegantly put. I mean, all of us are going we're all on the same path. And I just love it. You get to the point and I go, I got it. And then I'll interview someone. Yeah. And you go,
the universe is like, oh yeah?
Yes, shit. And it goes, take this one. I go, oh. And it's always been, but in the past, it's always been not suffering by cause and effect of learning in the past. Not anymore. The last few months, there's no cause and effects. I can't.
Effect.
Yeah, I can't even explain this. And it got to the point, and I remember being a child and trying to commit suicide. Not this type of I want to get out of here, because I didn't fit into this experience. But this time it was like, no, I can't, but it wasn't in that energy. That's the only way I can explain it. And I've never seen something shift so quick. I've never been so happy to lose everything, my health, everything. But I didn't lose anything. I gained. I can't even articulate what shifted. It was just a whole new earth for me. There were familiar people around, but it's so that was going within that. And I kept saying to myself, I need to connect now. I need to shift the consciousness, expand it to co-creators, real co-creators. And Brett and Brent, I got to tell you, I'd go on the computer and your expanding reality would come up, and I'd hit your program, and I could feel it in there. And it was like I was being an addiction being fed. I told you, I've stolen some of his guests, by the way, and I could feel it. But more importantly, the questions, your part to play, I was feeling it with the questions you were asking. It was expanding and not just for your guest and for yourself, but whoever's watching it. Because, and I said, oh my God. And then I'm going, Brendan, you've got to come back on the show because you're primed. It was, and that happened like that. Everything is like that. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Because one of the ideas is that now you're, I heard this recently, and so it really resonated with me, is that now you're presented with information. Before there's unknown unknowns. There are things you don't even know that you don't know. And that's where you exist in a state of ignorance. And that's all ignorance means. It's not a shot. It's like, oh, ignorant. Well, but it's not a shot, right?
No.
But what it means is that you're just not exposed to. That's it. It's just not even in your paradigm. You don't understand. And so when these kind of things present themselves to you, or you present them to you in the form of your experience, if another way to put it, then you're really not faced with, but you are presented with an opportunity to know something. And you can either kick cognitive dissonance in and say, nope, I don't even want to look at that. And then that's fine. That'll determine what type of things pop up in your reality. But people like me and you, who live in this perpetual state of curiosity, then we're always curious. I want to talk about this stuff. I want to see how it's all connected. Let's talk about psychedelics. Let's talk about all of it. And so then it pops up more things like that in your reality. And so it only pushes you further. Now, there's some great insights to be gleaned on that, because like I said, we've all done, or we're doing the inner work and all that good stuff, or we're to a point where we can share ourselves now confidently.
Absolutely. It's co-creation. It's co-creation time now. Now it's co-creation time. I mean, way back in the day, we all said, oh, we're co-creating. We were not, actually. We were nearly there. We were nearly there.
I'll just say this on what you said, and I'll let you keep going. We were co-creating the conditions for us to be able to realize that we were co-creating. So actually, you're always co-creating, but we just weren't doing it in the deliberate way that we are now.
Absolutely. And this is what my recent guest has been happening as I'm talking with my own personal life. When I watched your shows, I mean, you made a statement, and I wrote it down so I don't forget it. I don't own this. I'm not plagiarizing. And you said to become a greater, grander version of myself.
Neil Donald Walsh. I'm not going to take that either. That came from him, but I definitely subscribe.
When you said it, you could feel it, and I thought, wow, now that is powerful. And really it encapsulates knowing thyself. That's what it is. That's what we have actually been doing, what we have been doing. But we with what I call spell casting is trying to change the linguistics. We say things, but we haven't got the frequency.
Right.
So we're literally, we haven't got it. It's not from the heart, it's from the mind.
Right.
You comes a point where things shift, and before you say something, you just and then you speak. Yeah. When you said that a greater, grander version of myself, you said it from your heart, brain.
I mean it,
because it come out, and I was like, "Fuck,
yeah,
Brandon." It was like boom. I have heard you say that before, but I never got that effect.
I'm becoming much more resolved in that conviction. It is something that I highly encourage everyone to do. And in the context of that, I was probably talking about every interaction you have is an opportunity for you to be a greater, grander version of yourself. And that is what it's all about. And so really you reinvent yourself constantly. If you can think about the refresh arrow on your browser, you refresh, your identity. Whenever when you're presented with even similar situations that you approach differently. And that's what I mean by that. Now, a greater, grander version means that you're where you are, and now you're presented with even the same situation, and you can do better than you did last time. It's basically like your second shot at everything. So if you're ever like, you have one free throw and you miss it, well, you're like, oh, I want one more shot. I want to do that again. Well, the universe does this for you rather constantly. So whenever you say, I cut that guy off, I didn't mean to, when you're driving down the road or something like that, I didn't mean it. I'm just having a whatever day. And then you kind of take stock. But again, this takes a lot of hubris just to be able to look at yourself in a way where you're like, you know what, maybe there's some things about myself I can do differently. So this is why being mindful, that's all it takes, is just being mindful of the fact that everything is an opportunity, everything. And instead of seeing it like, which is just a mild alteration of your perception. And all you have to do is look at things and just go, you know what, that didn't serve who I tell people I am. That didn't serve the promises that I've kept to myself. And I'm in violation of that whenever I interact with another human, animal, situation, whatever. And so you get another shot, you get a do-over in the form of a new template that's going to feel like the same situation. And really when you get attuned to it, you can go, hang on, I've been here before. And you, again, drop out of into observer mode real quick. You have a peek around and you go, yep, I've done this before. I know now how I'd like to approach that this time. And here's my second go at the free shot. This is your
I know, I'm total agreement. I mean, well, at first we don't realize it, and we're going to get some juicy bits because I have jotted down a few things so I don't forget, because there's some really good stuff. I've heard even Brandon speak on. As we're going through it, we don't quite realize what we're doing, which is really good actually, because then I think then the ego might, because there are many out there. You think, oh, I'm, pay me £5,000 for 4 sessions and I'll, let you wake up. We've gone through that. I mean, I'm seeing more and more. I want to move it on from that. Is what I experienced. It's not just me experiencing it. And everyone I've spoken to on a personal level, I know how hard it is to articulate at the best of times, but this is above and beyond. And if I struggle trying to go where I want to go, bear with me, or use a bit of telepathy and read my mind and re-articulate it for me. So I want to take this now on the back of that. What we're talking about, to know thyself, or the greater, grander version of yourself, but that's from Brandon. The ways that will happen now as co-creators of our reality. First, get off that timeline. You run out. Literally, there is no time. It's gone. Time's up. It's time's up. So I'm not going to, it's done. I want to talk about time slips, interactions, and what I call them energy personalities now, but I'll go back to shadow beings, ET, whatever. But the amount of people I'm aware of the time slips interaction. Okay. Now hold. I want your opinion on this. Like someone that's self-realized, and I'm hands up, I'm honest. Spent many years, I am in all places at all times in the now. I've always said it. And it was my truth. It was a truth. Now, here's the difference. It's not a truth anymore. Okay? Because it's not academic or intellectual or slightly experiential. It's not a truth anymore. It is that.
It's a knowing.
The knowing. And I now am aware of myself. I don't follow reincarnation, but if you do in the physical, that's fine. That's your path. But I understand where that's come from the writings. Is I am in all timelines, of all places. There's a Gloria here. She could be something else there. I am now aware of all of that. That's what happened. That's what's so there's, and so the experiences I've had with the time slips interaction coming in, like spooky action. At first, I didn't quite understand that there was all coming into one. And it was coming from everywhere. I have seen myself in another physically. I mean, I've seen it. I've experienced it. And she was more scared to see me than I her. All I can try to explain this, as these timelines interaction were crossing and we got what you call ET coming in, and physically in my 3D world with a witness a week ago. Now I'm there. It's not a truth no more. It's an right knowing. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
I think it's very interesting. And to what you said about reincarnation, I know why you said.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify for the audience is that what you meant by that is that whenever people articulate reincarnation, what they are talking about is a low-tech version of kind of what you're experiencing now, or the knowing that you possess now, which is that you are all things at once.
Yeah.
And I talk about this all the time. Little short, The Egg on YouTube. You guys can look this thing up. It's less than 8 minutes long, and it's mind-blowing because what it articulates is exactly what you're talking about, that you are everything. You're all of these things. Now, how I look at this and how I would describe this to, with some reference points that we have in this game at this point, would be a simulation. So if you think about a video game, something like World of Warcraft, okay, well, there's multiple characters in that game. But what you're saying is rather than being, a teenager in Japan or a teenager in the North Pacific of US, they're basically all you playing the game at the same time, but with different characters or with different avatars, right?
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about this concept, and again, the way I visualize it, if it is the case, and I tend to appreciate this idea a lot as well, so it's cool, that what you're doing is that you're tapping into, and you're saying, okay, I'm this orc now and I'm playing this, and he's cool, and he's on this side of the map, and he's got this sword, and he has this hat that he wears, and this storyline that I'm familiar with because I've played him up to this point. With the conditions, environment, all of these things factor in. And now you're like, actually, now I just want to check in on the elf that I am in the other realm on the other side of the map in the same game, but it's at different times too. So you could say, like, I played this one back in February.
That's excellent.
And so you basically just tap into different characters, which we would just call people here, or animals, or anything, right? But another thing that makes me think of it this way would be that whenever contentees talk about the grays describing us, okay, so you're talking about gray entities, non-human intelligences, whatever they are, describing what we are, then they call us vessels. Now, what's interesting is if you think about it, and consciousness inhabiting something or tuned into a frequency or utilizing this avatar to experience an environment, however this was created, that's a non sequitur. But let's say that this is a way that, we would be vessels at that point, because your character in the game is not moving around until you're doing something to tell it what to do, until it's inhabited by your physical body in this place, in that digital version of you. And so you can scale this up just one more level and think of your experience here that way.
I mean, I think you should go into universities because you articulate a lot better.
They're within a box that I'm not a fan of.
To you on your podcast, your question, the way
I'll
you
just keep doing that.
You're amazing. I mean, that does see. I'm learning. I'm going to plagiarize him and listen to it again and speak like Brandon. No, I'll be
Please
me.
Please do. If it resonates with you, please spread that, because then it's going to connect dots that you've already been thinking about, and then that's going to excite you, and then when you're excited and passionate.
I mean, we can't use old tools for new ways, basically. We need to find other ways, new analogies, new ways to express a new way of communication, because it's not going to be this way, vocal, vibrational communication eventually. And we need new ways to express things. We can't use the old ways. They worked. I'm trying to ditch many of my analogies that I give now, because they really don't capture what I'm trying to. It's a deeper version coming through. That was excellent, Brandon. So on that, so we're talking about, so where I'm coming from when I say it all. I want to add one more thing. For example, when this happens, I've always been musical, and I could never read music as a child.
Same.
But I play by ear.
Same.
Yeah, no, always. And we call anything musical. And then way back in the day, I had a violin, and I loved the violin, and life wouldn't allow me to play it. But every so often, I'd go off and for some unknown reason buy violins, but never really having kids, raising. But I had this thing for violins, okay? With the recent experience that's just happened to me, I went to, in this country, we have a thing in the field called a boot sale. I don't know what you call it out there. People bring their household goods and sell them in a field.
Are there boots there?
Boot sale. It's called a boot
Yeah,
sale.
but do they sell actual boots there?
No, it's the boot of your car. They open it up and get all their shit out.
I see. Okay. Okay.
So you can buy household goods, anything. They're gold,
but
or
not
they're traditional gold. It's wonderful. It's cheap, and we do it in the UK. And with summer's here, well, it's early summer. We've got, and every time I've gone to the boot sale, I see a violin, my heart started this longing. And, you know, I'd say, how much? An extortionate price. I can't afford it. And then go next week and I see another one. But it was like a love, a passion. And I really couldn't get it. Then I had this contact and then this shift. And I turned around and said to my friend, I need a violin. And eventually I've got one. She got me one yesterday. But hold on, that's how fast it comes.
Okay.
That's how far. But as I was going through this, and I was speaking to me, going, all of a sudden it came, which one of me plays the violin? And I'm only going to try to explain it. And as it came in, I then had a knowing, another version of me somewhere is a violinist. And my attraction all through this experience was a fractal of me somewhere else, Brandon. Oh my God. And then I'm dreaming, yeah, and I'm hearing the music, me, but it's not this physical. I'm consciously, this is the stuff that's happened of me. And that reinforced in all places, all times. And once that kicked off, other things have been coming in. What do you think about that one?
I think that goes very deep. And what will really blow your mind about this is, let's say that this is what we're talking about, okay? And that you are all these avatars. Let's just stick with this metaphor because it's just easier, I think, to wrap your mind around. And so you are all these avatars that have been, you are Leonardo da Vinci, you are Marie Antoinette, you are this amazing violinist, probably no names, but amazing in some Czechoslovakian countryside, right? Yeah. And so if that's the case, and something that really blows my mind is because we as human beings, it's kind of tricky for us to think about. And this is why the articulating what we're talking about in the past, reincarnation has been very important, because we think of, you know, linear time and we're talking about past lives and all of that. I mean, which are really simultaneous lives, right? But it's just been tricky up until this new time of understanding for us to talk about this. Now, let's say that this now jumps from your life to all lives. Well, now what I've been thinking a lot about lately is the daisy chain of events that make up who you are now in this conscious state, in this time period that we find ourselves. So what's very interesting about this is you were the Chinese farmer 1500 years ago that planted the tree, that fed the soldier that was going through there from Rome, and it gave him sustenance to then create this battle, to then go to another land completely and then meet the love of his life and then have a baby, which then, and now you extrapolate all of these things all the way down to you're the nail maker that made the nails on the shop that this couple met at. All of these things, and all of it added up to a purpose of you being you now, which means that every moment in this expression would, or every lifetime, which let's just call those moments, is you took yourself up on the opportunity to be a greater, grander version of yourself, which is what I'm seeing before me. Now, what's really interesting to this is all of those skill sets that you acquired in each one of those air quotes lives is just another tool in your box to take to the greatest, grandest version of yourself, which is what we see before us. And this is what like generations do. This is why like they talk about generational curses and stuff like that, maybe. But also there's a healing what's called ancestor trauma. And so really, again, if it's all you and there's nothing but you, all you're doing is healing yourself. But what you're doing is you're healing a series of yourselves in this particular daisy chain or this connected order. And then it gets really convoluted. Then you think about all of the things down to the person that made the lenses on your glasses. They're another expression of you that knew that you would need those to view through this screen and everything else you do because you need them. And so all of this gets so damn deep when you think of it that way.
But I must say, the deeper I go, I'm going to add to that, coming from my knowing, Brandon, if I was the Chinese person in the film, that is still, that timeline is still going now.
That apple's still feeding you right now.
Still going now.
Yeah.
And that's how one can start to, it's like that, I call it the Harry Potter School of Magic. You've been practicing, you now get time to play with the tools and the wands. I can access. And that part, I was a bit confused. And I think that's why it was a blessing. I went back 20 hours of Seth. And then light bulbs went on. And that's how I could access. I play the violin. It was I play the violin. I need a violin. Within 3 days, someone turned up with the most amazing, and Irish from my answer, same here, amazing violin. And I was like, it's like this all the time. But it's all going on now. But the Seth works confirmed that I need some validation, because I'm like this. I mean, I'm vibrating like this at the moment. It's like everything is shimmering.
Yeah.
And it's strange and the physical body is the consciousness of each atom, every cell is having to shift with me. So the physical body is sort of feeling it. So I'm going through that as well. But when I become aware, oh my God, that's me, that's me, that's me. They're still running, which means I can access it now.
That's what the Akashic Fields is all about. The Akashic Records, that's all this is. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's so you with this, you're going so deep, like your head goes vroom, vroom.
Oh yeah.
But
it's all consequential. It all matters, that's what's so interesting.
And going through this part is like, I feel like I'm constantly dizzy. Everything is vroom, 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 vroom. And I got to add this one. And what do you think about this one? And what's your opinion? I had contact early hours of the morning. I thought actually they'd left me alone because it'd been a couple of months, And all I remember is this craft, which is not like a normal craft. And I remember, and the atmosphere was same thing, all different, that the craft was moving. It bleeped out. When I woke up, I know that something's gone in, okay? I know. And I don't question it or put it out there, just wait. And everything started to shift and shift, as I told you. And when I listened to Seth, when he said you can contact any energy personality, yourself, I started to play with the magic, didn't I? So the violin was one. I'm just going to give you another one. Then I said, well, I know you're here, what we call ET, because I paint them. I've been in contact. I've seen UFOs, all the normal, like everybody, normal, no big deal. And I know, and I've been shown for a long time, they walk among us. I've experienced way back a few. I said, well, you need to come. Come. It was just come. Show me. I got up on this, going to a boot sale again. I got up in the morning 2 weeks ago, and I was just getting ready for my friend to pick me up, and vroom, we'll be there above. And they don't mean physical UFO nuts and bolts. They don't mean this, okay?
Right.
It's organic consciousness. The being is whatever shape it comes in. Big craft, triangle, it doesn't really matter. And it was like, boom, okay. As normal, I totally forgot about it. This always, like, they wipe you. We go off to the boot. I'm there. I never thought about this at all. Going around, and then never really took much notice of the fucking helicopters out in the country flying. I mean, we all know if they're about, they're about. Yeah. We know about the Chinook and all that. I'm calm, nothing. Like, no big deal. Like, I didn't know anything. And then my friend said, oh, we need to go up to the hill, the caves. And I said, yeah. I said, I'll take you. This is really relevant. There's at the top, there's a mausoleum and these caves where the likes of Aleister Crowley before him, you wouldn't believe what went on, the energies, the tunnels. And they've got all these rich and powerful people that dealt with alchemy, all buried there. About 20 years ago, 3 witches took me there. It was part of my initiation of mediumship.
So cool.
To this gravestone in a Christian graveyard that is a dodecahedron. Right? Perfect in granite and whatever. I totally forgot all about that. And I said to my friend, I need to take you to go and see the dodecahedron in the graveyard on the top of the hill. She went, oh, all right then. This is where it goes. So to get up, there's one-way road and the ascent is winding. If a car does come down, every so often there's little lay-bys. And it's like that. You don't walk it, darling. You don't. So I said, let's go. And you can see if you can pick up. It is beautiful. I said, I haven't been there in 20 years, but I will find it, which I did. Anyway, as we're walking up Random, after I called out before, I saw this, it looked like a woman initially walking on the left. So in England, we drive on the left-hand side. So my friend's driving, I'm a passenger, so she was coming up near me. And being a medium, I can read male, female, good, bad, ugly, or serial killer, you know. And so it was strange. And I said to my friend, that's not right. The words come out, that's not right. Wait till we pull up past her to go up the hill. What is she doing? It was 23 degrees, boiling hot. She was dressed in like, it wasn't a she, but tried to be, in like a 70s shell suit or whatever. Out of character, the clothing was first. This long white hair going down the back that was not even hair. Still, and as we come up, I went to look because I couldn't read a human. And remember, I'd experienced the beings way back. She had long hair, and then as I come, she went like that, head down. So when we went past, I couldn't see her. So we're going like this. Now, from that point A to the top of the hill, across the car park, into the graveyard, if someone's walking, they can't get there quicker than you. No?
Right.
No. Right. We go up, still going, she's not human. It bugged me. And then I forgot about it again. We go into the graveyard and I say, I always call, help me find it. Boom, boom. And over there was this massive, it's a 12 dodecahedron. And I'm on the path in the middle of the graveyard. And I said to my friend, walk over the graves and go and have a look. For some reason, I didn't go. And I stood there. There she was, right next to me, Brandon. My friend was freaked. And I'm like, vroom. And she was there on the, she couldn't have got there. That was one, right? And she starts to walk behind me. And I know she's not human. But I know she wants me to see her. She walks past. As she walks past, I then start walking over the graves to the dodecahedron where my friend is. I didn't want to shout, you know. And I went over there. I said, you know, the woman, there she is. Clocked her. She walked a bit down the path. She cut into a monument. She stood there watching us. Just watching us, Brandon. Then, so we crossed back onto the path. She then come out and watched us and walked down. That's when I said to my friend, grab pictures. Something said, take pictures. And I did. And I've got pictures. And she doesn't come out as a human being. But she went off the path, across a field, and she went into a forest and disappeared. Part of it. I'm really cutting this short. We get in the car after doing what we're doing. I said, for fuck's sake, if she's at the bottom of that hill, that's it. You couldn't make this shit up. We drove all the way down. There she was, between two crossroads at the bottom of the hill. Cutting it short, then we drive all the way off to go through the little town to leave that area. As we were coming out the end of the town, it came out of my mouth. My friend heard me. Now we're to look left. I looked left, and there she was. Just stood there. So that materialized. I know it's a long story, but that materialized from what we're talking about us co-creating. It's not just with us, it's with these energy personalities as well. What do you think
Yes,
about
I think it's very interesting. And I think that the difference in vibration is like an illusion, but it's so convincing. Even Einstein's famous quote, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one, right? And so the separation is what's necessary for this experience. So that's why we
yes,
experience it as so. You're
yeah,
over there, I'm here,
mhm,
you're you, I'm me, and all these kinds of things. But really, again, at a level, if you scale it up, and this is all predicated on the idea that you think that we're all one thing experiencing itself subjectively, so we have
mhm,
to put that in
mhm,
as a caveat. So
yeah,
if that's lost on you, then this is just entertaining. But what I mean by
yeah,
this is
mm,
so the way that you experience this is, now it seems, and I'll agree with you on this, that the veil, if you want to call it that way, between the persistent distance or difference between
yeah,
anything is really thinning.
mhm,
And so it feels like now you're able to tap into this more.
yeah,
And the more intuitive you become, the more you realize that actually it just amplifies and that you've had it
yeah,
all along. And so
yeah,
this is what it feels like. It's a feeling in the field. And just like whenever you're standing in a room, and people who aren't into the woo-woo can say this.
mhm,
Uh, I thought I, felt somebody looking at me, and you turn around and someone was. This is like the sixth sense. This is this um, poke in the field. It sends ripples out that you can detect, like a spider web.
mhm,
A spider knows if it's behind it, if there's something
yeah,
going on
right,
behind it because of the feeling through the field
mhm,
or the web. It's just how it's represented. So it's very interesting, though, that you're that tapped in, that you've got so many amazing details about this
mhm.
instance, that you're able to now look at with new eyes as a greater, grander version of you and integrate into your new understandings.
I mean, honest Brandon, I mean, I'm just putting it out there because as co-creators, and take it from the Seth, you need to talk it, you need to share it. It will be manifested and others will come back. That's what we've been doing for years on the podcast, isn't it? Um,
Mhm.
we're co-creating and we've got to where we are now. But now the new experiences need to be shared out. I mean, I was in two minds whether to share it. But I wasn't going to last week, but it came out. It just came out as part of a conversation. And why it came out is because, and I want to ask your opinion on the Seth material. Well, everywhere, everyone talks about there's a quickening going on. There's something going on. I mean, it's different terminologies for it, but I've always been aware, and that's still my truth to now. It could change at any point. For all the experiences from contact and everything I've gone through, and now recent, is, and there's no time on this. Don't think in 75 years' time, it's now. That at this point is for this interaction that you just spoke about, where they will walk among us. We've always known they walk among us. There's been the odd, but does this make sense to you what I'm
It
trying to
it
say?
it does, and one thing I wanna say on it is it has to do with our perception, just like everything, right? It's
Yeah,
just the way that you look at it. When you're presented with the unity consciousness idea, now you can say there's a heaven and hell, or there's nothing at all, or there's a wild card, which is this
yeah,
unity consciousness idea. So now you're presented with, ways in which to be new pairs of glasses. So it's like, "Hey, do you wanna wear the unity consciousness glasses?" At a certain point in your game, you switch out your optics, and your optics, we just mean your pineal gland, like your
yeah,
third eye, the way that you perceive reality. Now, what's interesting is, like, us human beings, we know that we're born with a certain hearing range. It's 20
yeah,
hertz to 20 kilohertz, and you don't get anything outside of those ranges, higher or lower in pitch. But we know that frequencies exist and affect the reality in which we live outside of that, because we know dog whistles exist. Their hearing range is different. We know cats' visual acuity is a lot different, right? They're given a different set of parameters. And so for us, we're given these parameters, but there are things outside of that. Now, also, this has to do, I think, also with your awareness. So as you are more aware of things, again, back to your intuition, or being able to utilize these senses in a way that's now useful to you rather than just something that you brush away,
yeah,
then now is the point in which you really start to create from this position. But with as far as the way it goes with how you perceive reality, I think that's what we're leveling up in. I think that our palette is expanding. And so now we're not limited in this visual acuity. And so, to something you said earlier about your contacts saying that they were above you, maybe
yeah.
they're around us all the time. They're just right in this frequency, just
They're,
outside what we can
yeah,
see, but they're there, right? And
they're
so
there.
let's say
Yeah,
maybe a cat can see it, or like how your
yeah,
dog will
mm,
stare at the corner of a room and you like get this weird
mm,
feeling or a cool sensation. But
Mm.
they can see something in their visual world. There is something there. So who's to say that there's not stuff around you all the time? It'd be a big waste of space if there wasn't.
I totally agree. I've always had the awareness they're here with the shadow beings, with the contact. I'm a medium with the spirit people. I communicate. You communicate with them. But this is something. It's like it's been. Like, how can I put this? Like we say, we're trying to spiritualize matter. Yeah. It seems they now are materializing spirit. So we can, in the 3D, does that make sense? Just anybody can
It
say.
definitely does. And all of it has to do with vibration. Kathleen Martin and I were talking about this, that two people can be standing right next to each other and a UFO will appear right in front of someone. And then the other person's like, do you see that? And the other person's like, no, I don't.
No.
So one person will see it, or one person will experience this thing that has to do with vibration. And this is a great point that you're making. And what it feels like now is that we are all to the point where our vibration is raising, if you want to think of it linearly like this, to a frequency to where we now have access to new things. And part of those new things is the ability for these entities or energies, whatever they are, to present themselves in our physical reality, which we weren't mentally capable of handling. Therefore, we weren't able to access them. But now we do have access to it because we're mentally able to handle it. It's like a chicken and egg thing. Again, it denotes back to the curiosity. We're just curious, and then therefore the things to be curious about will continue to present themselves. But they're meeting us in the middle, as it were. So it seems like these other beings on whatever other level are also going through a change or a shift. Now, you might ask yourself, well, our goal is to raise in vibration, right? Why would their goal be to lower in vibration? Well, that's a great question to ask, because perhaps and this is all speculative, but maybe it's all part of kind of this idea that we're all one thing experiencing itself subjectively, but the goal ultimately of this long game play out is to reassemble with all of the knowledge that we have. So let's say that these things are split in different vibrational realities. Well, as ours alters, basically what it's doing is coming back to a focal point. So if you consider something higher from you, then it needs to descend to meet you, or you need to ascend to meet it. Now, if you are that entity that is higher than the other part of you that happens to be visually, from again our articulated perspective, lower than you, then you would need to attract to that, or to reassemble into that, you would need to lower your frequency to rejoin. And so maybe that's what this is. It's not necessarily a downgrade on their part. It's a sought action, and it's an actionable thing because this is a participatory universe, and so therefore they're meeting us. We're all meeting each other.
In a neutral zone. I mean, to me, I've come to the understanding now. It's like we have to use terminologies to explain new information, so we have to use the higher and lower, but we don't mean the vibration of the word lower. Lower is like what you call a negative, isn't it? But it has to. We're in a polarity. And it's like we're coming in for our own space. No one's higher or lower. So we're in a neutral zone. What is that? Oh, God, it's that thing when two particles. Oh, I can't remember. I mean, because I'm just got things going in my head at the moment.
Quantum entanglement, where they can communicate.
Hold on. We cancel each other out. Like you have two waves, two particles. If you get the ocean and you've got, thank you guys, and you've got two waves coming in. When two waves hit, they cancel each other out. Yeah. They cancel each other out. That just came in, so that's why I said thank you. And that's what it's like. They cancel out the form, the shape, and become one. As in, does that make sense to you?
It definitely does, because this is what I mean about the collapsing of the wave, and this is what they talk about in quantum physics. This is that when you observe something, you're changing it from just potentiality, right? Because an electron isn't something in a fixed point. It's always in a state of potentiality. So you're always guessing.
In flux.
Right. And so with this, though, you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to ascend vibrationally because that's what we're naturally drawn to do. But maybe that's just because of where we are, where we happen to find ourselves in consciousness experience at this time. And so those entities, whatever they are, again, not hierarchical, just in a different spot. If you're over there and I'm over here and we want to meet in the middle somewhere, then you and I are going to, meet, we're going to travel and meet each other. It doesn't mean that we're going away from something that we're going to miss. It's just, it's a solid experience. It's something we want. We come together.
It's beautiful. I mean, you could say, I mean, we could just take it on this one, then we'll shift to another topic. I mean, a thing that just came in is like, you've got the waves in the ocean, you've got the big ass tsunami wave, yeah? And you've got the droplet of water that falls off. One's not bigger than the other, but when they collide, they become one again. There's no higher, lower, there's no more powerful, there's no weaker, and it's the same bloody thing. So for me, I totally understand me seeing this being. I mean, she was there, obviously, to make sure I did something. So it was to do with the dodecahedron, obviously. But apart from that, and for me to be 5 times, she appeared 5 times. Someone said to me, when she crossed the field and walked into the forest, why didn't you follow? I said, you mad? Would you go in a dark alley with, you don't know, are you mad? No. And then she reappeared right down the bottom too, 5 times. So for me, the wave function collapsed. All probabilities, all possibilities between the two, it collapsed, and 5 times she interacted. But she wouldn't let me see her face.
Yeah, and it was just a sea of potentialities. It could have
There you
appeared
go.
to you as anything. It could have appeared, you could have not gone that day. You could have, I mean, it could have been crappy weather, and so you decided to sit it out. Your car could have had a blowout. Any number of things could have avoided or impeded on this interaction. But it was all sought, it was necessary, and it happened. And that's how you know it was necessary, because it occurred. And so in this way, though, you're really onto something here with the assimilation and how they're popping up. But your ability to recognize and report is what's very interesting, because this is, back to the no one knows if it's true or not, or I'm sure somebody does. But there's this concept of invisible ships, and these invisible ships, just for the audience, is where allegedly, as the Spanish were coming over to the New World, there was a group of indigenous that were standing on the shores, and they could see the water disturbed, but they couldn't see the boats themselves, which is just how the story goes, which again is, I think, I was talking to Mike Ricksecker about this on the show recently. It sounds a little ridiculous to me because they have boats, they have references in their reality about this. And just like how, ancient peoples would describe Ezekiel's wheel or something, on fiery chariot coming down, they used the vernacular they could describe at the time. So these invisible ships, though, the way the story goes is that somebody could see them, and the shaman, after days of standing on the beach figuring out what could be making the disturbance in the water that they could observe, was then to tell everyone, when he realized that they were ships and they were the Spanish coming over. You could see them for days out, and so that's when he started telling people what he saw, and then other people could see it too. Now, this is both amazing and dangerous all at the same time, because what this entails is that there's a suggestibility that the shaman or this person in authority has to offer one. And we see how that blind obedience to authority, just based on the mouthpiece that you find to be authoritative, or that other people told you should be authoritative in your mind, and therefore you've adopted that moniker for that. That's how dangerous this is, because we see this in our culture now. You see people being led to an unnatural way of living based on the influence of people they consider to be authoritative figures. So this is the suggestibility. But again, I think our job here is to determine that. Like, that's what we do. We determine the future. That's what.
Well, using discernment, and it depends what's objectified in front of you, whether it's telling you to do bad or good or forcing you to do something. There's a different, that analogy you raised, I've used that. And I had it in my head, but you stole it out of my brain. Stop using telepathy.
Same brain. It's
so
okay.
I was going to come back at that one. And I know many people don't accept it. I have no issue with it. Whether it's true or false, I have no issue. I tell you why. You made a statement earlier on. You can have 2 people. There's a UFO. One will see it, the other won't. Boom.
It's the basis for everything. The double slit experiment, placebo effect. These are things that fundamentally, when you look at them and scale them up to any experience, like the double slit experiment, it's the easiest one. It tells you that we are not living in the same reality, and that you do create reality, and all that's out there is options for you to choose from. And so what comes in your eyes, the photons that come in your eyes, scientists know, don't leave. So where do they go? One would say, if you also apply this to the spiritual models of light codes and things like coming from the sun in this way, then that's information. And what happens with information? Well, in a computer system, then information goes in one end as an algorithm and spits out as a rendered environment. So what you could say is that the things you observe go into you, and they don't necessarily leave the way they came, but what they do present themselves as in your reality or manifest as is what you perceive them to be. So
Yes.
this also we know by the prefrontal cortex of your brain that interprets the light as it comes in, rather than you just seeing an analog
Yes.
picture and then you
It
think
reads the
about it
frequency.
first.
It's
Right.
programmed to read the until the frequency shifts, then it reads something different. I mean, you're just wonderful. I love the way you
Oh,
do
you're
this.
wonderful.
I know.
You're wonderful.
And I just
It's
finished
just
that
flow,
with,
though. It's you.
I was really grateful that another person witnessed it with me. And she said, that's not right. That's all she knew. And I said, well, they're not like, I said this, the energy personalities, because I've taken it from Seth now. I'm trying to pull the labels off, to make it, to the resonance to come. But I think the more we discuss this and more people discuss this, others will then realize, actually, they've missed it. They've missed an experience. They're ready and primed to make that connection and experience. Now, many people experience what I experience, but they don't articulate it because they're waiting for another one to say it first, so to speak. So we've done that bit. We've got to move on, because now you can ask another question.
Well, before we finish it, you are the shaman in this example. You're the one telling people that there are ships there, and that and then they now can see them based on what you're comfortable articulating in your conviction, in your understanding, in your awareness.
Don't forget, Brandon, I got my friend to run behind her as she disappeared in the forest. Who goes in the forest when there's a path? She wasn't normal. And I said, something said, take pictures. I was allowed to take pictures. She took 5 pictures. Do you know, after the pictures, we totally forgot we took them. We went off, we did this, we done that. We come back to my place. We sat in the garden. I got my coffee, cigarette. Totally forgot about the whole experience. And that's how I knew, because it always happens like this with me. And I went, should we have a look at that woman in the pictures? She opened her phone. She went, fuck. She said, what is it? It's light.
Yeah.
Light. Now, we took pictures in the graveyard before. It's a flow of pictures of the graveyard, pictures of her. Then we forgot we took them. Then we went to the mausoleum where all the rich were buried, the dead. Pictures straight on the same thing all the way through. Mausoleum scenery. We took it one go. One phone, one go. When we come back, she wasn't there. It was light shaped in a body form. Bright, white, blobby light.
So why do you think you had that experience? What value do you think it played in your understanding here?
Stop asking me awkward questions, all right?
Well, let's say everything happens for you, not to you, right? And then if you kind of, subscribe to the unity consciousness idea, that automatically denotes that everything happening around you is coming from you, not at you. So
right,
then,
okay.
You would say, why did I generate that in reality? What benefit did it play?
Right. Now I get you. For me, from the experiences I've had, I've always known they were here. And I've always said, when are you going to show yourself physically? When are you, because normally it's in the early hours of the morning or something. And when are you going to, and I've been told, we're here for eons, but there's no time, is there? So, and I think it's because something happened within my being. My being chose.
You raised your vibration. Yeah.
Yeah. Gloria didn't do jack shit, because I lost everything. I didn't lose nothing. My boxes are still packed. I become somebody else, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think because I went in and called out, they showed. So now there is no doubt. There's no waiting, I suppose, now. That it's now. I can, from my truth, that I can physically catch them now. As in, from the inner side. So, but no, from the physical as well as the inner, because others saw her, another one saw her too. And then on the camera caught her, but only as the light. So I think it was, now you can see, now we're here physically, which means if it's happening to me, it's got to happen to everybody else.
100th monkey effect, 100%.
Do you get that? And
oh yeah,
I knew I had to articulate it because I'm aware that other people are experiencing this, but they don't quite know yet.
They can see the water disturb, but they don't know it's ships.
Exactly. Perfect. You are amazing. Yeah. Right. So we done consciousness. We took it into this bit. Throw a question at me. Anything else you want to hit? Go
on. What are you most excited for?
This fucking journey. Now, I mean, to see yourself, to feel yourself. I mean, I've got to say, some other things have happened. To look through the eyes of another image, avatar, and you're looking through their eyes. To know and understand, like the violin, that I mean, it's like it makes the theater, the play, even more joyous. Talking to you is more joyous. We're playing a game and we can have fun. And we can just let go of every concept, any idea we had about ourselves, concept, reality, what is right, there's no what is right, there's no right. And it's the flow of creation. You feel like it's a flow of creation and it's fun. That's the most exciting thing for me at the moment.
Okay,
it's
so
like,
I love your answer and it's beautiful. What is your next step? So before you asked, I just want to see you. And so then they showed themselves to you. What's your next request from these entities to either more validate or enhance your experience and relationship to them?
To know the greater, grander version of myself.
God bless it. Come on.
Because that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
This is what it's about.
What is your request for them to then facilitate that opportunity? Because they've shown themselves. So what's the next step? A little light petting? I mean, what are we talking about? Do you want them to come brush your hair? There is no asking no more. It's spontaneous. It's like they did show me a few weeks ago, before the experience and of the contact and then the events, and I was being told, you are going to create differently. As humans, you're like we operate on the vibration of law of attraction. We all know that. What you put out, you come back, and you know about your, you know, and it's quicker now, quicker. But I said to them, I said, well, show me, and I can try and explain this. And I was in this space. They don't even think, and this is us. We're the same. We're getting there. And it went. There was a door opened up. There was a well. There were colors. There was, and I was like, oh my god! I'd never seen this, and you can do that. And then it was. So there's no asking now. There's no thinking ahead now, because it's now. I can't explain this, Brandon. The experiences are flowing through me. And I just know that I'm so excited. I mean, I got to say, whether you know it or not, when I've been stalking you on your shows recently, the same is happening to you. With you coming out with these questions, and your questions, how do I put this, are creating a reality to pull back. Just do you understand what I'm trying to say? 100%. Now, I have this kind of fun theory that the only reason reality persists is because of the gifts of people like psychics who can even predict a future, whether it exists or not. They can just see some future, or remote viewers. So they kind of they kind of extend our timeline a little bit. But one of the things that's very interesting, just even to that concept, is that, okay, if that's the case, then what this means is just back to the electron, that all of it's there or not there at all, or both simultaneously, and that it doesn't exist yet. So this idea that past, present, and future and all that, can be articulated in that way. But one of the ways that it's articulated from the perspective I've heard lately, kind of back to the same resonant frequency as an idea such as reincarnation, or it's just a way to describe it at the time.
Yeah.
It looks now like, by saying past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, which is what the next step from time doesn't exist. So you say
Yeah.
time doesn't exist, and I'm like, hang on,
Yeah.
I experienced something called time. We met at a certain time to do this.
Yeah.
So that tells the person with that idea that what's happening in the future has already happened, and therefore, but it all happened an infinite number of ways, and therefore you just pick the one that you want based on your current trajectory. We call it vibration, all that kind of stuff. But perhaps in this game, whatever it is, one may be able to look at this like the future doesn't exist, and then all exists is potentialities. And so through
Yeah.
our understanding and awareness, we're just all kind of creating reality together in step increments based on all kinds of different factors. We could say vibrational influences from other things, but if we just ignore all of the noise and all of the other variables, let's say, then one way to look at this would be that nothing happens until you have the idea for it, and therefore it's created. And so then it's a chicken or egg thing. It's like, well, you are the chicken and the egg. You are the birth and the death. You are both the creator and observer. And what you observe is what you create. And so it's this thing to where maybe like this game isn't as this is kind of one of the more terrifying ideas to me, honestly, that we're gods with amnesia, and that we like basically not locked ourselves. We gifted ourselves such an immersive experience that we don't realize it, right? But to get out of that, we have to figure it out. And so, but we have to all figure it out in some way. And so we all play little roles on each other's awarenesses, like you, with your experience, articulating that to your friend seeing it, and then also getting validation in the pictures you took that should have come out as a human being, but it didn't. It came out a way that needed to be validated for the whole experience to have mattered at all. This is also interesting that you've said it several times, which makes it important that you had someone there to validate it. Now, a lot of people don't do that. Now, it's also interesting to this point, and I'll shut up, is that you, as you create and observe, you bring things into you to create more and observe more down the same vein, right? And so also, though, this would say that nothing exists outside of you, meaning that no experience exists outside of what you're able to create. So if you can imagine it, it's there. It's kind of like the tulpa idea, or like in your example with the higher entity beings, or these beings that could do it faster. I have an idea on that, but basically that
what's your idea? Now, what's your idea? I want to hear your idea on that. What is it?
We'll kind of like that we're governed here again, like we have an experience in this place, whatever this is, because it's facilitating our role as the Chinese farmer that planted the tree to some other infinite number of realities, that it plays a role. You know what I mean? So in this place, though, there's a certain set of parameters. We have dark, dark, light, hot, cold. It's this dualistic way in which the experiences itself. But these other beings, let's say, don't exist in the same ball court as this experience is, and so they're outside of, let's say, even time, and so, or even duality. Like maybe duality is not a thing there, and it's only here because it's necessary for this research, if you want to call it that way, to go on in this environment. But the only way it goes on is if it's governed in such a way. So these, let's say, higher entities, or these entities that have access to different things than we do, because if you look at it, we have access to different things that they don't, like time, like mortality, like these kind of things, like the opportunity for linear time to exist from our perspective, because that's how change is affected. And director of Ayahuasca Foundation, Carlos Tanner, on our panel last night, this is an articulation he made that I found absolutely brilliant. That the whole reason we experience things in the way that we do is because, and time included in terms of the most important factor here, is for duration, and you need duration to affect change. This place is one of the only places in the construct that you can go in one way and come out another. You can come out different than you were, but it takes the experience of time, duration, all of these things to have that experience.
That's a beautiful one. That's a beautiful analogy of it. I mean, what I'm seeing now, I think I heard someone, I don't know who it was, one of your shows, as I've been stalking you. I'm going to kill their analogy how it is, but each one of us, the fractal, I mean, it's really hard for people, but let's just say we're all, no matter, I may have this experience, but I'm telling you, when you open your mouth, why do you think I'm keeping you back on the show? You create as you speak, but you may be totally unaware consciously at the moment, or maybe you got an inkling that something's, but everyone, and especially the podcast hosts that are coming out, yeah, unless they're staying on what went before, yeah, then they're just staying there. Because I tell you why, is from the perception of all potentiality, of access to all timelines, when that comes, you can shift and go in to what you would call a past timeline, yeah, or a past life, whatever you call it, because it's still rolling. The path I was on until I had the contact is still going. It's still going, and I'm laughing. I am there still going. This is Seth 101. Never got that before. And I went, so I haven't lost out on the move, but my consciousness, the being, decided to experience. And does that make sense to you, Brandon?
It makes complete sense. And actually, there's an awesome example of this that I'm going to pull up for you and put in the chat.
Go on then.
Okay, but I'll tell you about it as I'm doing this. This is what it reminded me of. So there's a young woman named Pamela Nance. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
Okay, I'm going to throw her website in the chat here, and then you can do with it as you will. There we go. Okay, so Pamela, and she's wonderful. Been on one of my panel shows. Go check out the Co-Collective Creative too.
I'll be on it later tonight, UK time.
Yeah, and she's wonderful on the website. They're all there and on YouTube now. So, one of the experiences she had was this time slip experience where they had recorders going. She was out doing an investigation, and she had a time slip, a missing time experience, where later when they went back and looked at the footage and heard the recordings, they were talking over one another at the same time. So she could hear herself say, "What is that?" And then she could hear somebody else say something, but it was her. So she was talking at the same time that the timestamp occurred on this. So this is what you said about like overlapping things. Another offshoot of that. So I've got her website and she has phenomenal breakdowns on all of this on her website for free. You guys just check it out. Her investigations and spirit box stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's just fascinating, wonderful lady. So another thing that I was thinking about, a metaphor for what you were talking about, and why people kind of stay in the same, let's say, spot or whirlpool along the river of life. I think that that's a necessary function. So I'll articulate this in a couple of different ways. So if you want, picture the road that you were talking about being the spiral that led up to this destination. Okay, and let's say that our destination in this place for us individuated pieces of consciousness is to go this road, but along the way it's a staircase rather than something you can drive. So you do have to walk this bit. But what it does is that along the road, those people who are in the same things, talking about the same things, well, they're there as a, what did you call them? Pass-bys, lay-bys?
Yeah, lay-bys.
Okay. They're in a lay-by, and they're there to provide context for the next bit of your journey. Now, if you think, well, I just know all of this stuff, well, then maybe they could, this one person at this particular lay-by could say, hey, in about 10 steps, you can count 10 steps, there's a little chink in the railing there, just be careful, stay to the left. And this is what we call like guidance, spiritual guidance.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Just a physical version of this, right? Or metaphor for it. So then let's say that later on, and I'll be damned, 10 steps up, I hugged left, and then there it was. I could see it, and thank God I got that really good advice from that one person stuck in that one bit of experience as I view it, but they were necessary there. You needed that person to tell you that number one, UFOs were a thing and that they're nuts and bolts craft coming from other planets. Okay, cool. That's your introduction into this idea on your ascension path. But you go up a little bit further and somebody goes, hey, actually, that wasn't a chink in the railing there, but you passed it. Don't worry about it. But now we're looking at UFOs as interdimensional things. Maybe that's a thing. But you needed this understanding down here because that person was fixed, let's say, in this experience. But as a traveler, as you go by these laybys, which are these people who fall on the sword, as it were, of progression. And they stick with this and they plant their flag in this idea, because there's a lot of travelers behind you, you know, and as we pass and we go, hey, you're awesome. What are you doing still stuck here? Well, they need to be there for the next person to tell them that 10 steps up is a little chink in the rail.
That is fucking awesome, Brandon.
I just thought of it when you were talking about it. It was a metaphor.
Look, you're doing it now.
What I mean, and then the best part is that there's more of the road to go. We don't know everything. There's things around bends that other people can tell us to look out for, or at least, you know, say, hey, maybe look at things this way. And they'll alter your experience or your journey. So those folks that need to stay there, and I'll articulate this in the second way that I was thinking about. whenever it comes to like conspiracy theories and stuff like that, I used to be a big Paul Revere conspiracy person, and I'd run around, hey, wake up, look at Building 7, look at this movie, look at, this, they're all lying to you and all this good geoengineering right here. Matt Landon, thank you for the shirt, buddy. Stop spraying the skies, okay? But a lot of people don't see it that way, and they don't hear it that way. But what that shouting does for the folks that need to be introduced into those ideas, it serves as a beacon that's just as loud as the thing keeping them trapped, let's say, in the understanding or in the unknown. And so now you're yanking people out of ignorance. Now, that particular example, you're yanking people out of ignorance in the vibration of fear, because it takes fear to shake you up out of this three-dimensional reality and realize, hey, they're spraying something in the skies. You've got to look at this. Buildings don't fall like that. And can't you see the motive? But it's a very fear-based state. And I used to exist in this. I'm gratefully, though, now a conspiracy analyst. I'll talk to you about it, but I don't take on the emotional feeling of being that scared, because I'm not. What it's done for me is it's provided me for the next level of experience that I'm choosing to have, which is a knowing that that's occurring, but in an observational way, rather than looking at it like we're all fucked. I look at it as opportunities. It's like, okay, well, again, back to this, Klaus Anal Schwab. He's like, hey, here's this great new reset. You're going to own nothing and love it. You're going to eat crickets instead of meat, or whatever you prefer. And we've got your life laid out for you. Don't worry, we'll let you know when you need your next poke in your arm, and all of that will be scheduled. All you have to do is do exactly what we say and don't talk bad about the government. It's like, okay, well, that's an option, right? It's something you could choose, but it needs to be there to serve as a reference point. So now when I see things like that, I don't look at it like, oh, we're all fucked, I got to wake you up. Don't you see what Klaus Schwab is doing? I don't look at it like that. I now vibrate at a frequency in which I'm here as a resource if you'd like to chat about that. But what I'm always here to do is offer you a greater, grander version of yourself, which is what this opportunity is. It's all opportunities. And really, when you get to a certain level past the fear, past the unknown and the ignorance, you get to this level to where it's a known, but it's a comfortable knowing in the fact that you feel autonomous. Your autonomy. That being the most you is the best thing to go, because the more you are in this grand, big old picture of stuff, you have skills to provide. And when you're not being you're not a functional member of our ascension. And so the more you are, no matter what anyone around you thinks about that, that's the best, in my mind, again, the most cohesive way of going about being ourselves. So really, when you look at it, again, just step out one level, the things yelling at you that are unnatural, that are uncomfortable, that are all of these things, whether you're aware of them or not, at a level, that they're not right. Even if you don't know how to approach that or how you interface with yourself enough to figure that out and articulate it, there are still these things. And those things, again, are just options. So you can pick one or you can't, or you just choose to see them as opportunities and use that as a framework of what to do next. So again, with this, it was necessary for those people stuck in the fear-based, you got to wake up, you got to know that, this is happening around you to get out of it, for us travelers along our ascension path to see that. Now, I'm not stuck there. I used to be one of those people.
I was one of those. I was one of those. Yeah. I mean, that was beautiful. This is why I'm going to keep bringing you on my show, because I open you up. You just talk. You create. I love this. I mean, I used to be, my first on conspiracy was David Icke. I met him recently.
I know, on the island. You told me about this.
Yeah. I mean, he was just a lovely energy being. Anyway. And I remember having that, oh, it's not fair, and all that, and like you're fighting for something. I've been there, done it, and did it. And you need that. That was my step up. You need that, and that's just one part of it. And then when things come out now, so apparently there's a new thing come out now. I'm an observer, and there is no resistance. It's just none. But I understand there are still other gods waking up. They need to have this friction, because what is the point of this frigging journey if you haven't got the to get to the opposite, to resist, to pull, to know thyself. So I totally agree. I was an avid, I used to report on earthquakes on Facebook when I first got on, and the frequency and the volcanoes. And I was doing all of that. And this is going to lead into a segue. I don't know where they come into it, but they've just come in. I was just like you. And I totally agree with what you just said. 150%. I've got to shift it to something's just come in. Talking of that, you've heard of the Carrington effect?
Yes, but remind me.
Right. It's the Carrington effect is when the planetary system, the solar flares affect and blow out and do things. All right. Solar flares and whatever. I'm not talking what you think I'm going to speak about. Now, what's coming to my, here we go. What's coming to my knowing, as we are going through this, what did I say it was when two waves come together? I've gone brain fog.
Yeah, it's like propagation and then they cancel.
Frequency changes. What's in our reality, our solar system, it's all happening there too. Every being, every planet is a conscious being as well. It's happening there. So you'll hear on the news, this is happening, that's happening, this happening. I've got a question for you. I don't know the answer to this, okay? You may think I should know everything, but no. I've been fully aware of, as whatever's happening, what we spoke about this evening is going to happen, it's going to have a universal effect. How can it not? One. Okay, hold on.
Go ahead.
Now, being aware of the frequency, it's already being recorded. The human resonances change, Schumann's resonance changing, planetary, their tones, their frequency, because you can, everything's shifting as we shift. So here's my question. And it's an awful question, but it's my show.
I can't wait.
What do you think humanity is going to witness?
Ooh. Well, what would you like to witness?
No, from your truth, because
that's my answer to your question. What would you like to witness?
No, you're not. You just flipped it back on me. Piss off.
Here's why it's an honest question. Because this universal effects that you talked about are what made me ask you this question. So what the question denotes is that humanity as a whole has more creative power than you do as the individuated piece of consciousness. What if I were to tell you that nothing happens until you figure it out? You, Gloria Canning, figure it out. That's
and I'm asking you though.
So then the effects would be then whatever you want it to be. Like you're asking me what I would like to create.
No, I'm not. I'm not asking you what you want to create. And that's why I can't answer it, because Gloria Canning is the identity the being's wearing. I'm playing the role on the play. It's a spontaneous being, and the being and other beings are fully aware, never mind, I'm not talking media, that something is happening with the frequencies of Mother Earth, this being alive, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the moon, the stars, everything. There's the being becomes aware of the greater beings. Yeah, something is happening. So what, on the back of what we just spoke about, I know this is deep down the rabbit hole and totally confusing.
I'll go deeper. Go ahead.
So we spoke about, like, we said about seeing the ship, the beings that they're going to start walking in and all that. What do you think? What could you suggest that possibly all possibilities and all probabilities, it could be all of the above. What do you think is happening in our solar system now that possibly could cut out all the internet, all the technology? There's not a negative, by the way. Please don't think it is. I'm just putting it out there. And why? Because this came up in the Seth material about the future beings. What? Go on. Easy question.
Well, it's a great question, Gloria, and thank you. So everything that you described presupposes that we are affected by external sources that are out of our control.
We're controlling it. Hold on, let me try again. If we're creating from the inside, which is my truth, and even the cells in my body, the conscious cells, are oscillating and creating new healing, everything. And then outside, I'm creating new beings coming in from other spaces and the planet, it's going to be obvious. But each one of us is doing this now, maybe unaware, unconsciously. We're coming in, as the Seth material denotes, as co-creators with other dimensional beings. This is big responsibility, sort of. I'm just opening the door, the window, have a peep. Fuck, I don't want to do it. Go back if you want. But so it follows, even through quantum physics 101, as the cells of consciousness oscillating, the inner eye, ear, whatever you want to say, changing reality, it doesn't just on this little planet, love. So come on, go out, go that way. Out from you. What do you think?
Yes, and so again, this presupposes that there are external forces, even that you're creating or in conjunction with, that you don't have control over.
You do though.
Well, this is the thing, is you do at a level, but not from your conscious understanding, from this perspective. But if you can consider that maybe, like I said, all of the things in this place are what you're creating. Now, you nailed it with the play analogy earlier, so I really want to touch on that.
Well, go on that one then. Go on.
The play analogy is something that Pat Mahan talks about, Like Attracts Like. You guys check out that show; is incredible. Also, Dolores Cannon talks about this. She got this information that whenever the people who were coming through looked back and they said that this is like a play, and they were just actors in a play. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what you could presuppose in that would be, though, that there's a writer of a play, there's the director of the play, there's someone kind of that knows and has scripted these roles. Now, the point of awareness that you and I are at now is that we realize, number one, it's a play, right? And number two, that you're the actor playing the character, not the character you've been playing. This is the most important thing, because now you look around and you say, okay, all of these things that looked inconsequential or that they were happening to me are actually happening for me because I wrote the script. And so, even the heroes and villains, and I kind of want to get to the other side of this here in a minute, but even the heroes and villains, that they come out at the end of the play and bow together because they're both very necessary. So all the uncomfortable things here, the systems, the ego structures, all of the things that made us into the thinking beings that we are now needed to be there and serves the purpose of the play. But now we're to the point where now we're the actors. The play is over. We know it's not a play anymore. Now it's realsies. And now the director has said cut. And so now we're like, oh, well, we take off our period costume that had to do with the gladiator that we were playing in this role. And now we're not that anymore. And I put my t-shirt on and I get my normal car and we go somewhere. So now we're being open to this whole reality that has a basis in physics and maybe, some little things that you can attach to based on what you learned from your time in the play.
Yeah.
Especially how to interact with other, what's the word I'm looking for? What do you call it when you're like occupational work partners?
Occupational work partners, colleagues.
Yeah, like employees, like for colleagues. Oh, thank God. Colleagues of yours. So what you've done in this play is that you've played roles with colleagues and you've learned how to interact. And now it's time for you guys to go write your own play. Now it's time for you to go create your own reality. And that's what I feel like we're here to do. And so this idea that it's other entities and other beings that you still created that are more powerful than you or that have some sort of influence or something to offer that you can't is where I detach from that idea, especially with the universal effects thing. So the universe is only affected if you, Gloria Canning, not us as a co-collective creative, if you come to that understanding and wish to create something different. So really, if you really stop and think about it, everything in your life is looking at you to figure it out.
I agree to a part of that. However, I'm going to come back, and this is what I love about chatting with Brandon.
Bring it.
I not only wrote the script, I am the director. I am the cameraman. I am, the whatever boy that does all the sweeping the floors. I'm in the green room making the cup of tea. I am all of that.
Yeah.
Seth 101. And because what's coming out now, people are talking about creating new things. So I think it's a vital discussion. We don't have to agree on all of it, but you need a deep dive in this. All right, then let me give you a question. Say, for example, I don't know, what time is it in America?
Right now, 2:30-ish.
Right. So say you and your wife go out for a meal this evening in America, go out, and you experience what I experience. That's just like that. And then a couple of days, they start communicating. I'm just condensing. They start communicating, and then they start coming out with you, and then whatever, let's talk about, and they bring you in this new. Do you see where I'm going? Yeah, you. It's part of you as a director, whatever. I'm trying to get you to pull out with all what the planetary system, everything that's happening. It can't stay the way it was for the old 3D polarity. Do you see where I'm going? Sorry if I didn't ask the question properly. Do you get me now?
No, you did, because it was necessary for me to go on that diatribe, a diary of the mouth for some people that may not kind of see it that way. So I think it's all valuable, Gloria. You nailed it, and you nailed it. One of the things to this, though, it's very interesting, and why I say it that way is because really, like I said, they're all just waiting for you to tell them what the next line is. Like all these actors and people are here. This cameraman knows the camera the best because you hired a cameraman for that. You hired a specialist. And so that person knows that camera really, really well. And from that perspective, they're going to be able to offer you some insight into your ultimate goal, which then that's the question. What's our ultimate goal? And I, again, will say to you, what is your ultimate goal? Because my ultimate goal is for humanity. And I've said this before, and in fact, I'll put you on the spot with this. If a genie bottle washes up in front of you and you get 3 wishes, what would they be?
Again, know thyself. The truth of who I am. I am it. To be more, expand my reality. To know, just it's all I got now, because I am full of, and you are, not just me, everyone out there, I'm full of potentiality. I am a flux of creation flowing, and I would never know myself as in ever, it's eternal, but that to know thyself, the potentiality of this being and the potentiality of your being, because that's part of it. I'm attracted to other beings to know myself through you. I can't explain this stuff.
You did. What are the other 2 wishes?
There isn't. There's just that.
Can't wish for any. You can't wish for more wishes.
No, there's no more. There's one. Because when I talk to the likes of you, and especially when I hear you talk, I know myself. I can't explain it. And some of your guests that come on that I've stolen, I know myself. I'm expanding reality and consciousness. So that is, what else could, I can't desire anything else.
I don't know. You've probably never heard me talk about this, but I got goosebumps when you said it, because that's my answer. So my answer to this, and I've said it for years, by the way, is I would only need 1 wish, and that is for all of humanity at once to raise to its next level of consciousness, whatever that looks like. But what I know is that would be an immediate end to, in my mind, what my definition of the next level of consciousness would be, is no animal cruelty, no cruelty of any kind. You would have no person that doesn't know that it's separate from itself. We would have the knowing, which doesn't change our interaction, and in fact it enhances it. I don't know about you, but whenever I started thinking about the unity consciousness thing is when I stopped being an asshole. This is when I stopped cutting people off. And Bill Hicks has a great line on this, and it's like, what's going to happen to the arms industry when they realize we're all one? And that level of awareness is what I seek. And so therefore I concede my other 2 wishes, because that would be enough for me, because that would honestly take care of and check the box of any subsequent wishes I could wish for. Now we're living in harmony. Now we're able just to create rather than battle.
Well,
and we get out of the learning.
Isn't that like, when I say to know thyself, it's like the 2 atoms or the 2 waves that cancel itself out. I created the arms. And the more I know thyself, I cancel out that frequency.
Right.
I absorb it back into me. It doesn't go anywhere. It's part of me, because I am the arsehole, I am the arms dealer, I am the prime ministers, I am. And the more that goes, what you just said, you cancel it out. So it's got to go that way.
Well, I'm gonna take our current concept of simultaneous lives to the next level. So what's also interesting about this is maybe none of those exist. Maybe this is it. This is the only shot you get is from the eyes in which you're viewing it. And this whole play or game or whatever is such an immersive experience that history doesn't exist. There's a lot of issues with memory. We can look at just the way that you remember things. You technically don't store information. You
Yeah.
have a
Okay.
recall of how you felt about it. So your emotion about your
Yeah. I
interpretation
agree.
about
Yeah.
what happened in the past. It's not even actually accurate. This is why eyewitness testimonies are the most unreliable
Yeah.
in court cases or in any sort of testimonial at all, is
I agree.
because you're not remembering things. You're interpreting how you felt about encountering a situation or experiencing something. So therefore, the past may not even exist. So therefore, there's no other versions of you running right now. You have the idea based on, again, this model that we've already gone past reincarnation, which, existed for tens of thousands of years, by the way, and now we're leveling up in the
I
understanding.
agree.
But it took you reaching that new level of understanding for us all to be able to view it this way. This is why, again, placebo, 100th monkey effect, and the double slit experiment are all you need to know scientifically in this place that
Mhm.
you create your own reality, that you're the only
Mhm.
one here, and that nothing
Mhm.
happens outside of your
Yeah.
observation of it. So therefore, all the other players in the game don't even come into
Of
question.
course
This is
they
why I
don't.
asked
Of
what
course they
your
don't. They don't come into play. However, when I said there is no history, there is nothing to remember. That
right.
it doesn't exist. But when I say I experience myself now in all timelines, I know they don't exist. There's the difference. I am playing the game. I'm directing it, and it's part of the experience. Does this make sense to you?
It absolutely does. And the other thing to think about this, I mean, you can really get mind fucked on this into being very alone and feel how lonely this is. But that's the point of these interactions. You get actual chemical feedback from
Yeah,
things like this that resonate with you, that are palpable, that alter the way you experience this
yeah,
place. And so they're necessary. And so this again, it's like we're a kid playing in a sandbox, but the sandbox has a bunch of other versions of things for us to play with. It's a bunch of other, like your
yeah,
mom hired a bunch of kids for you to party with at your birthday party. You don't
yeah,
have any actual friends of your
yeah.
own. She hired them all. And so they're all playing roles
Oh
here
my
for
God,
your
that's
development.
brilliant. I love that analogy. I'll tell you what, I'm jumping in again. I love that because one thing I resonate with Seth is some of them are props.
Oh yeah,
They're
NPCs, non-playing characters.
oh,
Yeah.
what do you call them?
Well, NPCs is what they're referred to in the
All right,
simulation
well,
model, meaning
props. I'm old school.
non-character players,
Yeah.
non-playing characters. Yeah.
And do you know what? When I'm aware, and I'm going, you're props. That's a
Well,
prop.
they're around you all the time. I'll ask you a quick question to verify this. Have you ever seen your neighbors carry their groceries in?
No.
And then who's to say they're real? Who's to say when that door closes that they just don't evaporate back into the simulation? Why, sustenance is something we
All
need
right.
to
I'm
survive,
coming
or
back at
humans
you.
need.
This has been happening a lot. It happened to me it's been going on for years, and I got it. And other people are coming up to me. How do you know that you're alive? How do you know you're not dead, physically dead? How do you know?
You don't. I mean, I talked about this last night. You could just be a brain in a vat somewhere, first of all,
Yeah.
because all this is electronic signals. And what we know about the prefrontal cortex, meaning that light enters your brain and you think about it or you
Yeah.
interpret it before your sense
And you
actually
animate.
registers it
You animate
and you
an
animate it.
experience.
Yeah, yes. And then another one to that, brain in a vat, sit. Oh, okay. Okay. So near death experiencers talk about what's referred to as the life review process, right?
Yeah.
And the life review process on the other side, as they reported, time works differently there. So what they do is they experience their entire life, just even these moments in real time,
Mhm.
their entire life over again. But to them, in that perspective, even though they were clinically brain dead for 5 seconds or whatever, in
Mhm.
that 5 second, they lived and experienced all the little,
Mhm.
bruises and bumps they ever did, all the mean things that they ever did to someone. But not only that, they experienced it all through the eyes of the people that they interacted with or
Yeah. And
manifested,
what they
however you want to look at it.
experience.
Right. And what's really interesting to this, then it will really cook your noodle. Is what if this is just a life review, and really we're all dead, but we're all experiencing
Love
this in
it.
real time because there's no way to prove that it's not.
I love it because I'm at the point now, all possibilities and all probabilities exist simultaneously at the same time. I have no issue with that because the feeling because what this expression does, it takes away obviously the fear of death.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example. Why I'm going to bring this up is obviously physically I've had many, close death encounters, but what's been happening listen, this is, in fact, Michael on my show last week, I was saying it, when this recent experience happened, I felt like I died. And I said, I'm not the same. And so he said to me, are you eating different foods? I said, no, I'm still eating the same stuff. No one stepped in. But this is what you've raised. And it reminded me of way back in the day. I was sitting in a graveyard and I was in this state. And anyway, and I happened to say that, so I heard someone say they're dead. Vroom, and the being come out and said, we are not dead. And I thought the identity at that point, about 12 years ago, I thought I'm dead. And I remember the experience and I was going, how did I die? They always say you'll go straight back to the place you favored the most. I love this local graveyard. You can get coffee there. It was a beautiful, peaceful place. And I went, oh, right, where was I? And I had this trouble trying to, my whole being was experiencing death. And then eventually I went, oh, I'm not dead. Then I realized I wasn't dead. These experiences that happened recently, especially the Mahusiv one recently with the contact and reality changing, I went, I've died. I was pinching. Yeah. I was looking, I was talking to people and I was saying, are we dead? Because it felt like that. And then I got it. I got it. So, and people are coming. Someone the other day said to me, I got really scared. I had a little panic. I said, why, what happened? And they said, I thought I was dead. I'm hearing this a lot, Brandon. So keep your ears open. And I went,
you hear this with DMT experiences, is that they feel like they died. And then they then also are catapulted out somewhere and they have interactions with beings. And then this is something that they experience and talk about. So, yeah.
And then it shifts this experience now talking to you. I have, obviously, I'm not here. It's fucking weird shit. I can't fucking do this. I'm here.
This is why we can only do this every few months, by the way, because you melt our minds and faces off, and then we have to just regroup and assimilate.
And I know I'm going to start catching other people's shows, and I'm going to hear the same thing I'm talking. It's not just
monkey effect. It has to happen, and consciousness is connected. This explains the same things popping up over distances that people did in travels in the past.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's a experiment that happened in the 70s. You're familiar with it, with the sweet potatoes off the island of Japan. Okay. And so this idea right there, again, it just solidifies that if you have an idea, someone else does too, because we're all being fed the same thing. And then again, step out one level. Why does the 100th monkey thing affect? Yes, it's a smoking gun to the consciousness is connected, but what's the functionality? Why does it exist? And I think one of the ideas might be back to what we were talking about, that perhaps all of us are assimilating back together. Now, to the kind of what happened in 2020 and all that kind of stuff, it feels like that even, and I've used this example quite a bit, but I find it to be the most apt. So in the movie The Matrix, whenever Morpheus is tied up and he's in the chair and he's all bloodied and stuff and being roughed up, and the Smith character, or the bad guy, part of the Matrix or the system, tells the other guys to go away. He takes his earpiece out and has a one-on-one. These two dualistic forces in this area, one good or one bad, right? One a representative of the system that he's trying to break out of and free people from, one already freed from that system. So even that part of the system, Mr. Smith took his earpiece out and said he hates this place. He's ready for it to be over and he wants it to end however he can. This is what I'm talking about. The lizard turds here want this to be over just as bad as us. And so their job is to help us get to that level. Their role in the play as the villain for us, or as the thing that we resonate that we don't want to create or resonate with or identify with. That's not us. It can't be us. I would never do that. Well, it is you. It's just a version of you playing a role to show you
or
that
a prop,
what you want.
or a prop.
It's a prop. Now, man, the NPC thing that goes real deep, because then even back to the Matrix movie, all of them are NPCs and they can be tapped into by any representative.
And then I suppose really, if you're going to take it even a deeper dive down there, from my perspective, everything's a prop. From your perspective, even I'm a prop to you. When
you're a useful part of an expression of the same thing. And so we have an interaction, but it's the same. You're me, at a level, or you're at least something that I chose to exist here for an experience or understandings that I'm wanting.
But there is a deeper level to that because creation is constant, there are multiple gods, and it's not going to go back and disappear. This is eternal. So we're always going to have some form of opposites, energy beings, yeah? But
maybe. Again, duality may only exist here. So we can't determine if it's good and bad.
Hold on, let me finish that. These beings, even though they're some have form, an avatar, some don't, they're fully aware of what we spoke about.
Yeah.
And they want to play with form now. Now they can play with form and take on any form and create any world they want. Okay. And this is, I mean, no one is an identity knows. Okay. But you know anything, all possibilities. And these beings, well, we all know, I'm not teaching you to suck eggs. They don't communicate by words. They're telepathic. They know what's going on in each other's mind. There's nothing to hide. Imagine all of us lot, everyone knowing your darkest secrets. Yeah, they don't have no guilt, no shame. All of that will be wiped out as you go through what you're going through. And through that, they can still play the role as if, just like another analogy, say me and you, where we are on this experience, and we live in the same country. I'm not coming to America, so you can come to UK. And down the road, there's a theatre, and there's Brandon and Gloria. You can bring your wife as well. She can play a nice role as well. And she can do your hair for you. And we've all got a part in the play down the road. Now, we are aware of the self-realization. We've done that tonight, right? And we're on the next level. This is an analogy. I'm just trying to manifest it. And we go down there, and they've got this play on. And we're going to go and play another play.
Yes.
But in this play, it's going to be, the props are going to be different. Yeah. Everything will be different. Quantum physics won't be just a pseudoscience. We will play with the atom. We will play with the energies. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And this is again, back to Dolores Cannon's work about the 3D, 5D split and stuff like this. And so whenever you come to that understanding, what it really means in my mind is a graduation of self. It's not a physical place that you go to, maybe, but really it's a state of mind. So really what this 3D to 5D is, and some people will be left behind, meaning some parts of you won't get it, is in my mind, it gets a little religious-y for me whenever you start talking about that we've done the right thing and other people didn't do the right thing, even though they were presented with information and could have changed their mind. Because again, I don't look at it that way. I don't. People can't see what they can't see.
I don't personalize it. I don't.
Right, personalize it. That's
to me, the only analogy I can give, it cancels out. You know, like as we go along this journey, when we're our souls, right, and we attract our souls. And then when the frequency, whatever changes, they disappear. We cancel them out. It's not personal. It's not personal.
Vibrational.
It's canceled out. Does it make sense?
It does 100%, because bullies only exist because victims need to be victimized. And so victims only exist because bullies need to exist to them, victimize them. And so once it's supply and demand. I mean, if you want to anthropomorphize this out to like an economic principle, it's supply and demand. If you've got a supply of people that want to be bullied, then there's going to be a void there of bullies that will fill that void, you know.
So when you said about the religious term, to me, there is no, I don't personalize anything anymore. It's cancelled out.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I don't have any more friction with the religious connotations or what someone says. It's just cancelled out.
It's back to, it's not for you. This is the thing that I've really figured out. It's just not for me. It's like, thank you, I appreciate that. It's an option, but it's not for me. And that's okay. Like, that's actually the greatest awareness you can come to. It's just that you resonate at a different frequency, or you prefer something to be different than what other people want without judgment.
Sorry, stop. Why aren't you on stage as a motivational speaker?
I'm doing it right now. What are you talking about? I'm exactly where I should be. Exactly where I should be.
You need to be there and on the road, or do your own videos.
If that is in the cards, I will gladly show up for that. But I'm exactly where I should be, just as you are exactly where you should be now.
Potentiality, all things at all times. I mean,
you're maybe helping me manifest that version of myself. And so
even do videos of you and your own, and just chat your shit.
See, I'd rather go interact. I've had people ask me to do like monologues on the show and stuff. I don't, I'd rather do this. I'd rather just chat.
I know. I like the interaction. I mean, I don't do it. I've been asked to
But
do
you
it.
inspire a lot. A lot of the stuff we talked about tonight, I've never thought about before, and it took you speaking about it for me to articulate it in a way that now I will pass on to other people.
And same here. I would take from this and share it on my next one.
And that's what this is all about.
I got one more for you. Okay. And I can only talk not by anyone else's belief, my own personal experiences.
100%.
I want to ask you, this has never happened in my 300 years I've been here. I feel like it. I feel it. Right. My dreams have shifted again. And all I can say is, and thank God I went back to Seth. They were like a bit, nothing was making sense. A bit here, 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 a bit here. And I was like, well, you can't get anything out of that. It was just, I can't even explain it, right? But I'd gone back to Seth, and then he started to explain about what was happening as I was then connecting to my consciousness in the dream state, because that's my natural state, not here. And I was getting the building blocks or the information I needed to self-realize. So that's roughly 101. The most recent, they're like block sets. I constantly keep waking in the night, which was like ET abduction time back in the day. It was always like that. But this happened, Brandon. I'm in the dream, and I'm aware I'm in the dream. And I see this, I'm just watching like a movie and like that. And the next thing, and then the next thing. And then one comes along and I'm watching it. I went, now pause. And I pressed a pause button of one of the timelines I'm experiencing. And then I went to the next one. Fuck. I paused in the sleep state and experience. I'll come back to you. What the fuck happened there? What's your...
Again, this presupposes that this is not the real reality, that this is the real reality, rather. So kind of one way to look at this would be that this is the dream, and that this is what we're dream creating. And so you can stop and pause it, but it's just less lucid like your other dreams feel. And so it feels really real. Again, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. So perhaps you could look at this as the dream state or the altered state. Maybe you took some mushrooms in another reality, or the equivalent of some sort of psychoactive.
And come here.
And I mean, have an altered state. I think that this is an altered state of consciousness. What we
I'm in agreement. I mean, anything
as much as any acid trip.
No, I haven't got any drugs to do this. It's just happening naturally now. I mean, you would think I was on everything. It's freaky. But when you said earlier on, we could all be dead here, I agree. When I experience these altered states of consciousness experiences, I'm not here.
Right.
I don't astral project at night anywhere. If you're going to say that, use that label, I astral project from home to here, to come and have this.
Yes.
I don't live here.
Yeah.
I don't exist here.
That is, I think, one of the biggest mind fuck understandings you can come
That is a big mind fuck.
Yeah.
Even for me, I'm saying it and I'm like, but it is that. It's a knowing. And I think that is why the experience of, I understood that the experience of I died and my timeline shifted. I didn't. I must have been at home. I'll pause that one and change that. I'm going over there now.
Yeah, you change the channel because you want to watch a different movie.
That's how powerful every single being here is here. The Harry Potter School of Magic. Done training. You've got your wands. You are the wand. And the more that this happened, I was like, you speak about mind fucks. Mine's like, you can't.
Isn't it beautiful?
You burn out and you just experience it. And then you're waiting. And I was thinking, who do I share? Brandon, because I know that you are going to speak and you'll just bring it to me and I'll have total comprehension.
Just like you, I'm just a mirror to you. And that's all I think this reality really is. It's a mirror to you. So just like what you said, and it was a brilliant observation you brushed by, but I really want to kind of bring it back up that it was brilliant what you said, that whenever you experience the assholes and you're not an asshole anymore, then assholes don't appear anymore. And that is absolutely accurate. So
Yeah.
to this, then if you scale it up a little bit, then the things that you experience, you don't need to anymore because you've checked that box. You've
Cancel them out.
decided that vibrational frequency is not for you. You've decided that being that person on the step in the lay-by that's stuck in the same spot, although it serves a purpose, because it's definitely all of it serves a purpose, right? You've chosen, though, to move on to the next one. And you may hit another lay-by and say, you know what, I saw some things that guy didn't mention. I'm going to be in my own and let folks know as they ascend where we're at. And then eventually I'm going to poke my head around the corner and go, Gloria, come on. And then you move on about your way. And then we're all, the way that I kind of look at this, and this is just the last thing I'll say on it, is I think that we're all just kind of walking each other home.
Yes.
And the way that we do that is by, again, taking up every opportunity to be a greater, grander version of ourselves. Now, again, back to the analogy of like, when I cut somebody off and, I felt bad about it, or basically what I mean by that is there was an awareness that there was a difference in vibration that I felt based on something I chose to do that affected me in a way that I would like to take note of. And so it doesn't repeat itself. But for me, cutting that person off, the person in the car that I cut off needed that for whatever reason, and it all serves a purpose. So even though you learned something out of it, the other person also wished to experience this. Back to the bullies and victims thing, that needs to exist. All experiences happen for a reason, and all of it is interconnected for our experience, in my opinion. And then it graders our experience here by allowing us the enlightenment. And then back to the dream thing real quick. Maybe this is what waking up is. Again, back to this idea that we're gods with amnesia, that maybe we're God in a coma, and what we're experiencing is what God does in its mind. It just creates things, and our job as its creation is to, on a subconscious level, even for the entity God, whatever that is itself, is to reassemble itself into the awareness, or wake up to know that it's God, so it can get out of the coma that it's in.
But I mean, that is just super, because it was coming into my head now is like, if I don't have a problem with the word God. It doesn't bother me. It's fine. And God wants to know itself. So it created. And but God is fully aware of its unlimited potentiality, unlimited probabilities. And as it creates more and more, it's eternal, because it is the source of all things. There's no limits. It is limitless, omnipotent energy. It is creation, and it's never stagnant. It goes. So it just follows. It just follows that the analogy you just gave would be that way. And energy cannot be destroyed. So the energy it's creating from itself, can never be destroyed. You can use terminologies of evolved, but it will create itself, and which it has. We've a God. We've created the smaller gods, and we've gone on, and we've pushed it, and we're pushing it, and we will push it through eternity. So all potentiality. This is what I'm saying. It seems to be at the crux. Oh God, I love talking to you. It just brings out things in me.
Oh yeah.
This is why I run my show. I like to have guests on, because it affects me. It reflects back to me. This is what I love it. So on that note, really, if we're now collectively, because we're of one, the law of one, the props will cancel out. No human being's going to be left behind. I can tell you there are more people on this planet that aren't even human. Who knows if there's 8 million, billion human. Come on.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Yeah. I would say there's maybe like a few thousand, maybe.
Yeah. Players.
But really, look around. Everybody watching and listening to this, take a look around and really think about this. Have you ever seen your neighbors carry groceries in? I haven't. So you might be the only motherfucker.
You know what? I'm getting like the Mandela effect. Have I? Do you know? But even that. Who would have thought? A few years ago, Brandon, would I ever thought that they're not real? They're props.
The trip of this is maybe none of this, the idea of awakening, the idea of anything, none of it existed until it came across your vision, until it crossed your path. It didn't exist. There's like these ideas, and just like what you said about God creating itself, it's, yeah, I mean, you can, architects know what a building will look like because they designed it, but it takes someone putting it into physical creation for you to walk among it, for you to feel the texture of the walls that you drew on paper two-dimensionally. So it's this awareness is only achieved through understanding, and so understanding is only achieved through experience, and so experience is only achieved if there's something to experience. And so this follows that our awakening that we're having, again, maybe it is a literal awakening, maybe we're in a dream somewhere else and we have to wake up, and that's why we call it an awakening in here. It's kind of it's hitting it on the head there. They're like, hey, you need to wake up, so we're waking everyone up.
And we could go deeper and deeper. Brandon, we've gone just over 2 hours. I could talk all night to you.
5 minutes is what it felt like. It was great.
I mean, we're going to do this again because obviously there's going to be so much more. There's not many people I can go really deep with and I can learn. And the one thing hands up, even though I have a knowing, to have validation, come back, because really we're saying the same thing, but we're articulating it slightly different, and we're using it, but we're saying the same thing. Just like when I had my friend witness this being, in fact, she this morning said to me, after experiencing that with me, and she had never experienced ET ever. And I've said this recently in the groups where I teach, it doesn't matter if you don't think you haven't, you have, and they're coming. And because she was included, she said she was out in the car driving. She was at the red lights, traffic lights. And she said 2 people started to walk. And she said, what? And she said, they're not right. She said, I think I've seen what you've seen. I said, possibly you have, because she come into my energy. So she opened up, and then she was describing, because I said the way this woman walked, she was like gliding. There was no, her bum, us women, when we walk, even men, but we move our hips. We're designed to be voluptuous in case some hot guy is looking, that's the way it goes. Yeah.
We're a sucker for it every time.
Yeah, I know. But it was a glide. And the arms were hanging.
Yeah.
And it was a glide. There was no animation of this. I noticed it.
You know who else is described this way? Men in Black. They're described as just floating. And the same with like the cars that the Men in Black drive, whatever the Men in Black are, that they're these older sedans that look brand new. They look like they just rolled off the assembly line, but they're like a 60s model. And that the tires don't actually roll on the ground. They kind of float. And so people have noted this because of, and people have noted this because of like gravel roads and stuff. They'll be like, I'd never heard one gravel pop. And if you've ever heard, a gravel road, somebody driving down a gravel road, you know what it sounds like. You hear it forever. But when these Men in Black or these entities, whatever they are, show up in this car, they don't roll across the ground because there's no contact made with the surface because of the lack of sound. So it's interesting that you point that out. Also with the Pascagoula event, by the way, their legs were like a pillar. The Pascagoula event, it took place, October 11th of 1973.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I nailed that. Anyway, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were abducted or had an experience where there were 3 entities that came out, and they were super interesting. Check out Dr. Irena Scott. Under Flying Disc Press, Philip Mantle has several authors that have written on this, but including Calvin Parker himself, by the way. And so anyway, in that, though, that he talked about that their legs, or the entity of the legs, first of all, they were just weird. They looked like Michelin men. They had like claws instead of hands. They were bipedal, meaning that they had a stump, and then 2 arms and a head and a torso, right? And so that was interesting. And there was also another female that could have passed if you were drunk, I think is what he said, as a normal human girl. Anyway, so these entities didn't walk across the ground. They floated because their legs were kind of fixed together in a pillar. So there's a lot of examples of this, of what you're talking about.
This one, she floated, and as all of a sudden she was there, so she couldn't have got there from we drove.
Right, right.
As she glided, and I turned, and I could see leg movement, but there was no animation.
Like
And
the movie Mars Attacks. Have you ever seen that? Where the
no,
lady dresses up like a human lady and she like just moves her arms, but her leg just like moves.
no,
Anyway, check out that one
I
scene
haven't
and
seen
you'll
that.
see
But
it.
the arms were down the side. Oh,
Yeah.
and I could see, and my friend noticed it. I could see a bit of body. She would not allow me to see the face. I don't think there was a face, to be honest. I really
Yeah.
don't, especially after the photographs. And before, when we took, as she went past, and then we took the photographs, I could just see a piece. I've never seen skin so white. You know, like
Again,
photographic.
another thing that the Men in Black, that's reported by the Men in Black too.
Is it?
Hairless, their eyes are weird. They have no eyebrows. They're incredibly pale, and it looks like the skin's kind of like a suit. It doesn't fit right.
It does no, and my friend said, "Yeah, I saw that." I said, "I've never seen. I mean, maybe an albino, but there was something, and you know, the hair wasn't real. I knew it wasn't real, but the way she disguised her face, but it was. I've never seen that white, and I'm in a white country. You know, there's all shades of white. That white was like a photocopy of paper.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And then
unnatural. Yeah,
un-
it's like
it was,
unnatural.
and I got it. And my friend said she did this 5 times for you to notice that. I said exactly. It was. She
Yeah,
said it was for you. I said yeah. But then she was in her car and she's hesitant now. She said I watched them. And I was at the traffic light. She said I forgot I was in the car and I'm supposed to drive. You know, lights changing. And there was 2 of them. She said their clothing was out of sorts. Yeah, and they sort of glided across. And I said, "What? Don't worry about what they look like. You sensed it.
yeah,
You,
what they feel like. Yeah,
yeah. What do they feel like?"
this
Now,
is what we're learning is discernment.
it's discernment.
Yep.
Now, this is another thing I've learned. What's coming to us lot. This is how communication is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to come from the mind to make. I'm going to do a risk assessment whether it's safe to go to the club with Brandon tonight. You know, is it safe? What's
Accurate,
your
all accurate.
background? Have you got
Yeah.
conviction? You know, it's this, and it's spontaneous. Vroom. And this is going to be a good Harry Potter wand to use.
Mhm.
We have the intuition, the gut feeling with negative Nellies, don't we? You know, you walk in a room and then someone comes in and you go, vroom, fuck that, I'm out of here. Or, you know, you're gone. But this is far greater than that. You can recognize other energy personalities. I'm calling them that because I like the way Seth does it to get the human label on. Not that nice or nice. And if you've got, I mean, as a medium, my intuition normally kicks in. Yeah. It's just something mediums have, psychic mediums. You got that. But this is far greater than that. Imagine having ability to do that.
I
Imagine.
think we do have that ability. I think now we're realizing it, or now it's coming online. Now that
Yeah.
a new level is unlocked in a video game as well. Another thing, you start with this sword and it's crappy, and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, this is okay, but it's
Yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
get you through the level, right?
Yeah.
But then as you level up, you get like a big gun, or you get a
Yeah.
new
Yeah. Yeah.
bit of
Yeah.
technology, something like
Yeah.
that. So our intuition at this time is our new level up. It's the thing that's going to carry us into the new level that we just stepped into.
So really, we're going to go from heart math, from the frequency of the heart instead of the frequency of the brain. I mean, they will say, what do they say? How many inches? Is there 9 inches or 12 inches? 9 inches from the heart to the brain? I don't know how long it. And don't get vulgar here. Whatever it is, a foot, 12 inches from the heart brain to the, and you know, it's flipping. And I think we're coming from that energy, the heart energy. The more that the true being comes through and the gifts come through, we stop analyzing or whatever, like we stop personalizing. I think that is where this psychic gift is coming, because the beings do talk about, you will speak, you will be telepathic. I have experience doing it with them. Many of us have. I've experienced having my brain wiped. That was the weirdest motherfucker thing. That was like, yeah, I thought, do you know when let me tell you something. The freedom is unbelievable. There was an experience. It was, oh God, it was a good few years ago. And I was taken, and I was walking in this place I'd never been before. But anyway, and above me, I sense something above me, and it's this, I can't, the atmospheric change, something when this happens. I don't know what it is. It's weird. Anyway, and above me was the most humongous black triangle. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't see the sky that big. And I remember I first of all panicked. I knew they were coming, so I had that, but I didn't know what to do. And you know what the first thing in my head was? I need to phone the BBC. Can you believe it? I wouldn't even fucking read their page today, but there you go. Yeah. Back in the day, and I ran into this shop area and I saw this red phone, and this was showing me where it's going. And I went, phone. And then I started to lose the concept of a phone, like a baby. And I went, phone. I couldn't recognize it as a phone.
People who experience UFOs and stuff like that say that they never even thought to take their phone out of their pocket to take a picture of it. You know, this is one of the things, like, it completely loses your mind. Yeah.
And then next thing I know, the whole identity's gone, and there's this being. He looked human, but he obviously wasn't. Very handsome, and he started talking, and he said, "I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do. It's going to happen." But when it was all wiped, I was free. Brandon, I mean, free.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what anything was used for, like a baby. It was cancelled out. Now I understand. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, what they freed you from was your judgment. They put you in the ultimate observer mode, where it was just there, and you had no feeling about it one way or another. You didn't feel like, oh, well, one time when I was a kid, my mom hit me with a phone receiver, you know, or something. So therefore, I've got kind of a thought about phones in general, you know, that's filtered through this experience that you've had or whatever. But really, what this is they put you in the ultimate observer mode. Now, you can go into this at any time you want. You just look around and look at things. But it is the most freeing thing. But we are very governed here by the burden of experience, but it's also the whole damn reason we're here. It's really interesting.
It is. I mean, it's not a negative thing.
No.
It's a process. I mean, you know, I remember years ago going, oh, I want to wake up, and I lost it, you know, and now I look back and I'm aware of it. So I try to be as empathic and as compassionate as I can for others. Because you know, I loved your analogy of the lay-bys going up as each one comes along. You know, you're waiting there. Gloria, come on, it's okay, up you go. And I go, yeah, you, George, come on, it's up you go. I mean, that now, obviously, it's always hindsight's a fucking bitch, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Uh-huh. And one thing that was so freeing for me, I've always had a knowing I came in this reality one time. I have not been here before, and I haven't. And I'm not coming back. And I knew I wouldn't be coming back. And I knew this was the end of this experience, of this human thing. And then obviously and especially going back and 20 hours of Seth again, it just, I've always known that. Of course I'm not coming back because and you know,
because it didn't exist before you experienced it.
Yeah, it's so simple.
Yeah. And so therefore, after you leave, you don't need to keep creating this because there's no one here to experience it.
No, it's done. And you know, years ago, I hope you know you hear like sages and whatever go, it's so simple. I go, fuck off. What do you mean it's so fucking simple? Do you know what I mean? Until you get, and I'm telling you, every human being out there, for sure, you're getting there. It's no one's left behind.
Right. Because there's nothing to leave behind because you're it. You're going to take all of you with you.
Yeah. Right. We're going to have to close because I'm going to need to go and eat some food. And we're going on nearly 2.5 hours. I love it. The best. If I could leave anything for anybody, then I'm going to come to you. Listen. I mean, listen, not just with your ears. Listen. And see, not just with your eyes. I won't go any deeper than that because we all say, yeah, I hear, I see. No, the whole point of the new experiences that are happening, you don't even know they're happening until someone says, could you listen? Or really look at something. Doesn't matter, even if it's what you think of human beings in the street. You know, just do that. Be more observant. Be more observing. Just sit there and look. Go sit somewhere and just look at people. Even arseholes.
Yeah.
Look at them. People fighting, don't react. Watch them. People in love, kissing, watch them. Kids play. Watch kids playing. You learn so much from kids playing. Yep. Yeah, that's what I believe. And if anything resonates from you from this show tonight, please take it. If it doesn't resonate, just put it to one side. You can always go back to it. Brandon, what would you like to leave to the people that are going to watch this show? What would you like?
Keep it super simple. Just be good to one another and take yourself up on the opportunities to be a greater, grander version of yourself. First, see every opportunity as an opportunity, first of all. And second of all, show up, and take yourself up on that opportunity. Like, allow the universe to surprise you in the way that you can constantly rediscover yourself through these interactions. And it's always a shot. You recreate yourself anew every single time. Oh, and thank you, Michelle, for being in the chat, by the way. She said some very sweet things. So thank you, Michelle.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I haven't read the chat because I put all my attention on you because I'm learning from you. I'm just absorbing everything that comes out.
Thank you. I just saw it like 5 minutes ago. So thank you, Michelle. I hadn't until now for the same reason, but I saw this thing that said comments. I was like,
I will read it afterwards. Yeah. Most of on my Sunday night show, because there's so much going on, people watch on the rerun. When they finish, they watch. So it's out there. Again, thank you to over 5,000 followers on Facebooks and likes. It's thank you. That's all from my heart. Thank you so much. Take the videos, share the videos, discuss the videos. I have amazing guests as I've had tonight. I love this man. I've adopted him, I think twice now. I love listening to him. Before we go there, I want you to sell yourself shamelessly, haul yourself out with all your shows, your links, and go.
Also, I'll make it very easy on you because I've done that in the physical. expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's it. Go there. It links to all the other stuff that you prefer. All the episodes are played there. All the lives are replayed there, like yours. That's where you can find them. Too hot for YouTube stuff, things we can't put up on YouTube because it's riddled with too much information. And all that stuff's up there, guys. It's all for free. If you'd like to contribute to the show, there's an option to do that there. But come on over and check it out. It links to everything. The store's there if you want to rock some merch, all that kind of stuff. So expandingrealitypodcast.com.
Just mention about your panels you've been doing again.
Yeah, the Co-Collective Creative. So I do, Expanding Reality Live, which is just kind of like a hang, right? I'll get a few fellow cohorts in the industry here, and we hang out and just talk about amazing stuff. The last one, we had a comic book producer, a filmmaker, and comedian. God, I'm going to screw this up now. Of course, like 5 or 6 podcasters, all amazing people, clothing line designer, 2 intuitives, and just all kinds of folks. So I kind of like bring all these people together and we just talk. It's amazing. But the Co-Collective Creative is a different little, more deliberate series. And that's mind-blowing stuff. We just had our 3rd one last night, and so all 3 are up at not only the website, absolutely free, but also on YouTube. So you guys go check those out.
Lovely. And on that note, thank you again, Brandon. You'll have to come back soon. We're doing it again. Hey, sorry.
Oh, I said, I love the shit out of you. I love talking to you. So thank you so much.
I love talking to you. I mean, it's just, I was so excited for all week. We're getting excited. I'm excited because we don't know where it's going to go, but we know it's going to go somewhere and it's going to benefit us and others. And the whole point of my show, Brandon's show, and all the other podcasters out there is to share this stuff out, to help anybody and everybody. And I love learning. I love learning. I love hearing another being's experience because they're experiencing the same as me, but in a totally different way. And they got a different take on it. And I go, wow, I never thought of it like that. That's why I'm going, Brandon, this happened. What do you think about that? And you go, da, da, da. I go, yeah, that sounds cool.
Maybe. I'm just pulling it out of my ass. I don't know.
But that's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the way it is. On that note, guys, all of you open-minders out there, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you. And until the next time, we've got Inception in the week, but Open Minds next Sunday. I'm Gloria, and this is